In 2017, a lot of people had requested that I react to a show called Star vs. the Forces of Evil, a Disney XD cartoon created by Darren Nefsey and produced by Dominic Bizignano. At the time, the show rivaled the likes of Steven Universe and Gravity Falls. After slowly making my way through Season 1, I saw what the hype was all about. The show was good. It passed Gravity Falls and Steven Universe and became my top favorite show within the first season. And Season 2 only amplified my like for the show times 1,000. But as the show went on, something changed for me. My appreciation for the show slowly started to decline throughout Season 3. I started to raise an eyebrow at some of the decisions the writers were making, until the inevitable crash and burn that was Season 4. So, what happened? How did a series that was once my top favorite show by a long shot eventually drop underneath my top 10? Well, to answer that, we're gonna have to figure out what made this show great in the first place. Right from the start, the premise of the show is set. Magic Girl gets sent to Earth to train in magic. She stays with a boy named Marco Diaz, along with his henchman, a little kappa named Ludo, will repeatedly throw themselves at her to try to steal her magic wand. It's simple, but strong. It immediately tells you this ain't your normal princess protagonist TV show. Since story is immediately introduced, Season 1 keeps you watching through its comedy and sense of continuity. It takes a few episodes for the story to start showing signs. Episode 8 introduced the true antagonist, Toffee.
Toffee!
The show doesn't explain Toffee's motives, or anything about him really. This gives a sense of mystery that kept people interested. We see his plan slowly unfurl up until the Season 1 finale, where things get crazy. So many hints were dropped in this episode that the story goes much deeper than it seems. Season 2 eventually starts off strong by immediately suggesting that it's not over. Like the wand starts doing wacky shit, it's missing a crystal, and there's also a demon horse in there, so that's fun. It also immediately covers what happened with our puppet antagonist, Ludo. It's done through a one-episode story of him trying to survive in the wild, which went a lot better than it sounds. This was actually a really good way of changing his character to make him an actual threat. The episode ends with Ludo finding the other half of the wand, and if you weren't convinced enough that the Toffee story isn't over, the writers also throw in this hint by having the wand's crystal being held by Toffee's right arm, the one with the missing finger.
Where are your fingers?
Throughout Season 2, the writers swap between Star's point of view and Ludo's point of view, all while progressing Toffee's plan. It shows the effects of Toffee on the universe's magic, and it shows every bit of his plan carefully unfurled. Honestly, seeing this season was an amazing experience. I'd done an event in summer 2017 where every weekday I would react to a new episode of Star. And watching each episode, seeing all the hints that the writers dropped, and getting very invested into the plot was incredible. As I said before, this season only amplified my like for the show. We finally get to see Toffee return, using Ludo as sort of a puppet, and this comes into play during the most epic season finale I've ever seen. And this finale transitions right into their TV movie, Battle for Muni, where they wrap up the overarching story from the past 2 seasons. Now, don't get me wrong, Battle for Muni does have its problems, but we'll get into that much later into this video. Season 2 had a pretty good balance of filler and story. In total, the season had about 13 plot episodes and about 9 filler episodes. And if we're counting by the half-episode format that the show uses, then there were about 24 filler episodes and about 20 plot episodes. And I'm not using filler as like a bad term either. All of them were enjoyable episodes, even featuring a lot of my favorite jokes from the series. And most of them, it never felt like it was wasted time, as the lessons learned seemed to grow and contribute to Star's character. I'll touch more on this in a bit. Hold on, I think I'm forgetting something. Oh yeah! Literally the best episode in the series! Bon Bon the Birthday Clown did everything so well. It was a really heavy story episode, and it continued the shipping side plot in a way that wasn't intrusive. Literally the first minute of this episode explains why it's so good. Like, I remember being pretty low on energy with starting out with this reaction. Like I wasn't fully awake or something. Then the clown fucking exploded. That's how you start an episode. Just that woke me the hell up and gave me energy for the entirety of the rest of the reaction. This episode also perfectly continues the Ludo/Toffee plot in a major way, with him stealing a precious family heirloom that could easily help him become an unstoppable threat. The amount of fear that came from Ludo actually succeeding was insane. He could learn any spell in that book and use it to do anything, such as destroying the entire kingdom. And don't even get me started on the absolutely flawless buildup of the fear of the attack through the use of rats.
Where the rats?
Yeah, there's rats. There's rats everywhere.
I can guarantee you guys, I didn't feel that kind of real fear anywhere after Battle for Muni. And I think Nicholas Stevia summed up this episode pretty well. It had both normal problems that people could relate to, and Muni-related problems, which progressed the story. That's really what it was all about. It was a mix, a balance.
Perfectly balanced, as all things should be.
The show kept a perfect harmony between filler and story. Filler contained all the fun episodes, Star School experiences, Marco's karate and rivalry with Jeremy, and the shipping subplot. And the story section contained, well, the story. The mix of relatable Earth things and an interesting story was a huge part of what made the show great. And Bon Bon the Birthday Clown is the perfect embodiment of this. In short, this story was the thing that I loved most about this show. A bit complex, but not too difficult to keep track of, for both the viewers and the writers. Now, if you've seen my star reactions, you'll know that I'm a pretty big fan of Toffee, if you couldn't already tell by my 3 framed pictures of him. But why do I like this raptor god man so much? Introduced in Season 1, Episode 8, from the first second Toffee is on screen, you can already tell he's completely different than what we've seen for the past 7 episodes. The tone immediately shifts to serious and mysterious, as opposed to the humorous tone we've been used to. His deep, calm voice and professional attire suggest that he's not at all like Ludo. And within the same episode, it's hinted that he has ulterior motives. Within his first counter, I pretty much already knew he was going to be a big deal.
Get some rest.
Okay, so this guy is absolute demon lord and he has the potential to destroy everything. Got it. I also really like his unique design. The whole professional businessman look isn't something you usually see every day. Also, he's a raptor. Raptors are cool. But what I really liked about Toffee is how much potential he had for the story. It's made clear that Toffee isn't some random raptor guy that crawled out of nowhere just to destroy everyone. He's been shown to have connections to Star and even Marco. Having this kind of hinted connection with the main characters opens up for a whole bunch of potential plot points. And in the official Magic Book of Spells, there was hints that Toffee is connected to a potential endgame villain, which would have been an amazing finale. Overall, Toffee is shown to be a very big threat to the universe, and honestly is one of my favorite antagonists. On the other hand, we have Ludo. Ludo is mainly just a puppet antagonist at first. Some little runt the writers kept bringing up until they eventually went, surprise, this is the actual big bad. However, in Season 2, Ludo had one of the most incredible character transformations ever. In the Season 2 premiere, we immediately see what happened to him after he was chucked into the void as a last-minute gag from the previous episode. Through a single episode, we get to see him progressively learn how to fend for himself, as opposed to how he was in Season 1. Not doing anything for himself and instead bossing around his henchmen to do so. By the end of the episode, he's able to conquer and tame 2 wild beasts that had given him trouble, and he also finds the other half of Star's wand, which puts him on a whole nother level of threat. Throughout the season, we get to see him build this whole giant army, one step at a time. The tone clearly shifted whenever he was on screen. Before, we got, haha, funny green man, get annihilated. Afterward, it's more like, oh god, funny green man has a gun, holy shit, rats are here, arachnid, avian combo, time to run. Like seriously, I'm gonna bring this up again. Look at the real fear in my eyes after I realized the symbolism with rats. This transformation isn't even unrealistic or out of character. It was done really smoothly. The pacing wasn't too fast, so nobody really batted an eye when someone who was so useless in Season 1 suddenly becomes one of the biggest threats ever. And parts of his Season 1 self still shines through at times. He'll still blindly follow Toffee, albeit without knowing it's actually him that was in the wand. And he still shows signs of his immaturity from the first season. Certainly doesn't make him any less of a threat though. Let's just take a moment and view what this little man has accomplished. He tamed and weaponized a wild bird and giant spider. He weaponizes his negative emotions, conquers, enslaves, and weaponizes his entire army of giant rats, masters and weaponizes a simple transportation spell, and attacks and takes over Muni. I mean, look at this man. He's going to kill you! Seeing the point of view switch between Ludo and Star really solidified that this season and its story was important. This is the story of the show. The combination of Ludo and Toffee as a threat really made Season 2 interesting to watch. Remember how I said that pre-story Season 1 kept you watching through its comedy and sense of continuity? Well, this is what I mean. The way this show worked, it never really felt like the filler was wasted time. As I said before, each lesson that was taught seemed to have actually contributed to Star's character and overall growth. And even the little things in some of these episodes would stick. Laser puppies are spawned in as a joke. They stay there throughout the entire series. The teacher is turned into a troll in episode 2A, and that stays like that for the entire series. Marco chucks some bubblegum into the mouth plant?
Yo!
In episode 5A, the gum is shown again in the season finale. Marco breaks Jackie's skateboard in season 1. This is mentioned on their first date, in Bon Bon the Birthday Clown. Marco being 30 in the Never Zone is mentioned throughout the series. Even the random legs joke from the St. Olga's episode is brought up again in season 2, episode 16A. I remember thinking throughout season 1 that I like how everything sticks like that. But one of the best displays of continuity, and it's one of the things that I liked most about this show, is seeing how Star grew as a person. As you may already know, Moon and River sent Star to Earth because she was too much of a menace to society. So they'd rather send her off to train somewhere else, so they don't get destroyed. And Star actually shows signs of improvement when she's on Earth. She literally learns more about being a decent person and grows from it. And her knowledge of magic, and Earth grows as well. Seeing that kind of improvement really shows the continuity between the episodes, and again, it makes every episode seem worth it. You see her turn into an actually decent person. Another thing is, the writers also usually made sure there was a smooth introduction to various plot points. Globgor appears briefly in Season 1, Episode 3A, when the book is first shown. He doesn't say anything, he just blips in as Star is frantically sorting through the pages. But this shows at least they had a plan set out, and they took the time to show his existence before his actual introduction. Tom is introduced during a joke where Star says call mom, and it ends up calling Tom. While it's not completely clear, we do get ex-boyfriend vibes from their brief encounter. Tom is later formally introduced in Episode 8A, Blood Moon Ball. And St. Olga's is geniusly set up through the use of recurring jokes, as well as various characters running away from being sent there. This leads up to Season 1, Episode 10, where they actually go there and tackle the problem head on. Eclipsa was hinted all throughout Season 2 before her actual debut in Season 3. Magic High Commission members each had their own separate episodes to introduce everyone before they started actually doing important shit. The effects of Toffee are all hinted and demonstrated before the reveal in Battle for Muni. Even side characters like Jackie, Jaina, Buffrock, Red Lobster, and River have clear introductions before they become relevant. And of course, the story itself has continuity. For a lot of the stuff established outside of the main story, it definitely seemed like they had plans for it. There were the various past queens, there was the Monster Arm, there was Toffee's ominous final message, and unfortunately, you'll see how that turned out in a bit. The characters. The characters. It's insane how much charm these characters added to the show. They're also funny and unique, and the main characters were pretty well written. Star started out as an ignorant schmuck, but as I said before, we're able to see her growth as a character. We see her actually become a better and more responsible person. Marco was one of the most relatable characters in the first 2 seasons. And I don't want to be like the corny, oh my god, so relatable. I mean, he was actually someone I could relate to. And I'll explain that in more detail in a bit. He wasn't some generic boy student protagonist. He had personality traits, quirks, insecurities, like a regular human person. Overall, Marco was a really nice, likable character. And even the background characters are freaking awesome. For starters, here's some background characters that are recurring. They show up in multiple episodes. They're not something that the storyboarders just like coughed out after being told, fill the background with children's. They're all surprisingly distinct, unique, and they gave the show a lot of charm. There's the guy that constantly says Star Butterfly rules, the Nerdy Man, guy whose birthday happens to fall on completely random days. Miss Skolnick, the principal, Oscar, Ludo's whole army, Starfan 13, beautiful businessman, Brittany, this random janitor that just wants to burn shit, Alfonso and Ferguson. And those are just the characters that I wrote from the top of my head. As for Alfonso and Ferguson, they're kind of a special case. Evidently, Disney had butted in during the writing process and said that Marco should have more male friends. I'm not really sure they had to specify male. They did end up saving Marco's character a bit. Think about it. What other friend would he have in the beginning of the series if Alfonso and Ferguson didn't exist? Literally no one. Except maybe Gustav. Really, he just would have been some lone kid chasing after a girl, which is kinda sad. So I'm not really sure what Darren's plan for him was there. Regardless if they were forced or not, Alfonso and Ferguson were actually funny and good characters. They were likable, and again, they added charm to the show during Season 1. However, I assume that the producers only had their voice actors being contracted for Season 1, because throughout Season 2, they don't speak or do anything. Their absence is even referenced as a joke in Season 2, Episode 20A. That kinda sucked. Like, you should treat your background characters with more respect. Especially if they're the only people close to Marco before Star showed up. Like, really, you shouldn't just drop characters out of nowhere like that. Moving away from the background characters for a second, let's talk about some people that are going to be very important later on. Magic High Commission. If you watched the series already, you already know how these guys turned out. Romulus was actually really likable when he was introduced. He was flawed with trusting his gut, but he genuinely had good intentions. Good guy overall, just bad judgment. Omnitrax is similar to Romulus. Again, he was really likable in Season 2. He didn't really show much of a personality though, but he certainly wasn't bad. There wasn't much to go by character-wise, outside of Math Magic, which many consider to be a generally forgettable episode. Heckaboo was probably given the most character out of the Magic High Commission. Also ended up being the most consistent member throughout the series. And like I said before, likable in Season 2. And there was also Lekman, which Lekman did not deserve to die. He's just a nice old goat man that wanted to help out. Dude, look at him. And finally we have Glosric. Glosric didn't really have much of a role in Season 1. He was mainly just used as a glossary, which hence the name. In Season 2 he got a bigger role that really solidified him as the all-seeing mentor. The idea of him being tied to the book was well executed, and his death was pretty powerful. All these characters just made the show feel so filling. Like, you definitely see Echo Creek as some sort of like home. Combined with the good character writing, it felt like all these characters were actually people that you recognize and know. Well, everyone knows that the shipping scene is usually the most tame and calm part of any fandom, right? In all honesty though, the shipping subplot was actually pretty good. And yes, I say subplot. Shipping is not the story of the show. Apparently, some people don't get that. And if you genuinely believe that, let me ask you a question real quick. What's more creative? Raptor Man manipulates Little Green Man, leads up to him blowing up a castle, splitting one of the most powerful relics in all of the universe, and then continues to manipulate said Little Green Man from beyond the grave, and leads him to complete all the steps for him to return and grab his finger, or the high school romance drama. I think we know which one is more creative here. Moving away from that, the shipping was originally done really well in this show. For the first 2 seasons, the 2 primary ships were mainly limited to Jarco and Starco. Let's go through each one. Although it was one of the oldest cliches in the book, that being the school crush, Jarco actually offered an incredibly unique and new take on this cliche, and that gave it new life. Remember what I was saying before about Marco being relatable? Well, this is where it shines most. Now, the thing that sets this apart from the usual school crush cliche is how Marco went about the relationship. Marco was shown to have a crush on Jackie Lynn Thomas for a long time in his life. He wrote out a whole plan to eventually get with her. Now, this is something a lot of people, myself included, can relate to. With me, I've liked someone for a few years now, and I even made this whole giant plan to eventually get with them. But just like Marco, I was unable to actually really progress with it. And each step in this ship's progression is surprisingly realistic for a show about a magic girl. Marco eventually having to confess his crush on Jackie was really an intense moment. This relationship has been building up since episode 2. The fact that Marco had to do this as well was a nice touch. Normally, he would have never been able to do that himself, like he wanted to, but he didn't have the courage to do it. And this moment is especially powerful because of Marco's little speech that he gives here.
I told you, I have a crush on Jackie. At least I think I do. But what does that really mean? I put her on this sort of pedestal. So, do I like the image of her, or for who she really is? I mean, I like her enough to know that she deserves someone who wants to get to know her, which is definitely me.
Seriously, everything is right about that scene right there. A lot of crushes form mainly just with the want of getting to know the other person better. And the way that Jackie responds to this is realistic. She doesn't immediately fall head over heels for him, and she doesn't reject him either. She feels unsure, which is a pretty realistic response in that situation. She's respectful to Marco about it too. She doesn't make fun of him for it. Overall, their interactions are really realistic and relatable. And each step afterwards feels really natural and well paced. When they finally get together, we see them genuinely happy as a couple. And in Jackie's case, we started out not really knowing a lot about her personality. But as time went on, we saw her develop character. It seemed like her extroverted and casual personality was a perfect opposite to Marco's introverted and worried one. It's like they kept each other centered. On the other hand, we have Starco. Fans started shipping this one since the very start because, boy protagonist and girl protagonist need to get together. But being real for a second, the chemistry between Star and Marco was actually written really well for the first 2 seasons, and they would have worked as a couple. There are some problems though, and I'll get into that mainly in the second section of this video, but right now I'll name a few that pertains to this section. Now this will definitely be brought up later, but even the first 2 seasons, the Blood Moon Curse caused problems. It directly interfered with Marco's current relationship with Jackie, and it's something that neither Star nor Marco really wanted. Essentially, the disqualification factor means that the Starco moments from when the curse was placed to when it was broken don't actually count as consensual Starco moments, because we're unable to tell whether or not the moment was caused by the moon's manipulation. So essentially, in that case, there isn't a lot of concrete establishment for Starco that isn't caused by the Blood Moon. For the first 2 seasons, I actually really liked the ship, but once I realized that the moon was kind of forcing them to be together, I started to back away from that. I shipped Starco during the first 2 seasons, as well as Jarco, and kind of Tomco. Yeah, I was kind of all over the place. I remember thinking I wish that there was a way for all of them to happen.
Again, it's like you want both things to happen, but the show forces you to take a side, and oh god.
Now I regret that statement immensely, but out of all of them, I shipped Jarco the most because it's something that I could actually personally relate to. To conclude, Season 1 and 2's shipping scene was pretty good because of its realistic writing, combined with its well-written and relatable characters. And that, ladies and gentlemen, are the various reasons why Star vs. the Forces of Evil used to be great. Now I'm going to pull an Emperor Lemon here and ask you to take a good long look at these reasons while I carefully explain how the writers managed to fuck up every single one of them. Because Star vs. the Forces of Evil fell from grace. Do you remember the strong starts to Season 1 and 2? Yeah, well, let's Let's take a look at Season 3 for a second. Let me just say the Battle for Muni doesn't count as the Season 3 premiere. It was its own separate TV movie that closed up the overarching story from the past 2 seasons. So the actual Season 3 premiere is Scent of a Hoodie. So the episode starts out with Star and Marco saying goodbye, and Star is grieving over this. You know, makes sense in context. But then we get these really long and awkward sequences of her smelling Marco's dirty hoodie. The episode is solely dedicated to her not wanting to wash it so she could preserve Marco's scent? Literally in the last episode, the kingdom was in shambles because of Toffee, and this is the follow-up? What is this? Why is this the follow-up? As for Season 4's premiere, it was actually really good. We get a 2-part special about what happened to Moon, and we get her back. It gave me a lot of hope for the last season. The comedy was spot on, as usual. It quickly and swiftly wrapped up a plot point, and it even gave a little hint towards Toffee plot. Something that, you'll find out in a bit, is exceptionally rare during these latter 2 seasons. But this is short-lived because it's immediately interrupted by the setup of a Starco moment. Oh yeah, for the last 2 seasons, they decided to ditch the whole overarching story technique midway in favor for a seasonal approach. Essentially, there'll be a different story for each season. This didn't work out so well. You can't just like swap that kind of thing out of nowhere. Like that's literally the structure, the fundamental structure of your show. You can't just change that midway. It's not what the audience is used to, and it doesn't give a lot of time to develop each story. During the overarching story, whenever something important happened, it had much more of an impact rather than when something important happens in the seasonal plot era. And all the change really did was confuse people. In my case, I kept thinking that Toffee was going to return, because we spent a full 2 seasons hyping him up to be the big bad main antagonist, only for it to end with a rushed anticlimactic death that doesn't even make sense continuity-wise. Toffee himself even hinted that it's not over. You can't just like drop that. You can't just leave a thing like that out there and not do anything with it. This also leads into my next point. Nearly everything from the overarching story was forgotten and hardly ever mentioned again. Let's go through a list of times Toffee was mentioned since Battle for Muni. Dave, of all people, mentioned Toffee in Club Snubbed, and Moon and Marco mentioned Toffee in Sweet Dreams. And, those are all the mentions for Season 3. Yikes. For Season 4, Toffee is mentioned again in the premiere by Star. Glossric suggests that defeating him might have been a mistake. He leaves a Megalodon hint that Toffee may not have actually been evil. Moon references Ludo's killing line to Toffee, and Moon remembers. Toffee appears briefly in Meteora's lesson and establishes what his motive was. It was a war on magic. But really all it ended up doing was raise more questions than it actually answered. And Toffee says his signature, surprise, in Tavern at the end of the Multiverse. That's the last Toffee sighting or mention we ever get. But yeah, the biggest antagonist of the series was hardly mentioned in the last 2 seasons. A lot of people got interested in Star because of the story, myself included. I remember when people were requesting the show and while I was reacting through it, a lot of the things that people would point out is specifically the story and how good it is. You can't take the story that got the majority of the fans interested in the show, scrap it, and then do something completely different. That's just whack. Oh, and by the way, there was a lot of interesting stuff about Toffee dropped in the Magic Book of Spells. Information that definitely should have been introduced in the show, like the fact that Eclipsa used to know and date Toffee, or that Toffee turned around and killed Queen Solaria. So they gave away a lot of information in the book, and what do they do with it? Nothing! Also, goodbye Earth. Muni's the main setting now. The audience is used to Earth, and that gets abruptly ripped away and you're thrown into the permanent Muni setting in the most not smooth way possible. We lost the charm that the various Earth background characters bring. Janna is now a rarity, Jackie's completely written out of the show, she's gone. The old intro and outro are gone, and despite the fact that Marco has dimensional scissors and can visit at quite literally any time, we hardly see anything of Earth for 2 seasons straight. The first time we see Earth since sophomore slump is in Marco Jr. The episode highlights how little Marco's parents actually know about him. But yeah, this setting change really wasn't a good idea. The atmosphere in Muni is just so much more bland. Everything's so dull colored, there's non-interesting background characters, there's random classical music that shows up with a lot of the royalty stuff. So, aka a lot of the time. Don't get me wrong, I'm okay with classical music. I dabble a little bit in classical music, but right here it doesn't work in context of the fun, bouncy atmosphere and music of Season 1 and 2. And for a lot of the first 2 seasons, when we see Muni, it's a total shithole. It shows that things are clearly not run well here, and it has a lot of fundamental problems. It's all mainly used as humor, but then in Season 3, you're thrown into this environment, and they try to fix their societal problems. And speaking of societal problems, oh boy, that's like the main thing of this show for a long time. Essentially, the whole monster-mumin racism plot has been hinted since Season 1, when Star realized that the monsters really had it bad during Independence Day. Civilian monsters are first introduced in Raid the Cave when monsters start to live in Ludo's abandoned hideout. But even so, here they're introduced as alternative monsters. I'm not entirely sure they intended for monsters to be like regular citizens. But regardless, this certainly wasn't something that came out of nowhere. And when it first really became a plot point in Season 3, Episode 9, I was all for it. I thought it'd be a really interesting plot point. But the thing is, it went on for a really long time. It carries out through Season 4 as well. It literally worsens because of Eclipsa becoming queen. So like, take all the stuff from Season 3 had, nope, then now it's worse. Nothing happened, really. I will say, though, one thing is that they definitely did a good job showing things gradually changing. Started out with everyone being upset, except the monsters, and eventually got to the point where everyone was just kinda all good with each other. The racism plot felt realistically paced, but from a storytelling standpoint and what people are watching, it's not really a good idea to drag that kind of thing out. And again, a lot of the build up to the plot was just thrown away at some points where it just gets worse. Thought the issue was fixed? Oops, no, there's more racists. Oh, but now Eclipsa's queen, maybe it'll get better. Oh no, everyone's still racist. Oh, look, everyone's happy again. Oh, more racists. And defeating them isn't even gonna help because of the whole thing that happens at the end. This thing went on for 2 full seasons. We could have done with it being a lot shorter. And the only thing that could even be considered overarching from Season 2 is the Eclipsa plot. Honestly, out of everything from the past 2 seasons, I enjoyed the Eclipsa arc the most. Seeing her being proven innocent and finding out about the cover-up was the most interesting part of all this. But I still don't think it quite lived up to the story that we had before. And even this kind of gets thrown away because after she's proven innocent, the writers go back and forth from hinting she's evil and she's not evil. Like initially she was hyped up a lot to be evil in Season 2 and 3. But then it's like, nah, she's just a quirky little girl who's innocent and lost her daughter. But maybe she's evil? Nah, don't worry, she's still good. Maybe. Seriously, they wasted so much time doing this. Just pick one. Is she whack or not? Any question of it really should have been eliminated in the butterfly trap episode. Oh, and speaking of that episode, think about this for a second. What if Eclipsa actually was what she was hyped up to be? What if she was actually evil? Imagine in the butterfly trap episode, they don't use the box for the trial. They just use basic questions. After Moon, Eclipsa, and Star confront the Magic High Commission, they determine that they actually did in fact get rid of Eclipsa's daughter. The Magic High Commission is placed under arrest, and Moon and Star hand Eclipsa the wand and the kingdom. Because, you know, she's supposed to be queen, and neither Star nor Moon are actual royalty. But once everyone leaves the room, Eclipsa smirks or some shit. Then it's confirmed that she faked the whole thing. Festivia was her daughter, Meteora never existed, and now the entire kingdom is hers. That would have been a mind-shattering reveal. It would have perfectly lined up with all the hinting of her being evil and manipulative, and would have actually handled the plot holes of the Cheekmarks. And I'll talk about those Cheekmarks in a bit. Regarding the Cheekmarks, that's a big enough thing that it's going to have its own mini-section. But while we're on the topic, it's also worth mentioning that they established that Marco can do magic and has Crescent Moon Cheekmarks in Season 3. His Cheekmarks are the exact same as Selena's. She was one of the queens that they specifically pointed out in Into the Wand. There could have been a lot of story potential with this connection, like if Marco was actually part of the butterfly family. But instead, the writers ignored it and used it mainly as a Starco mechanic. Although if Marco was actually related to the butterfly family, that would make the whole Blood Moon thing and Starco in general pretty weird. Definitely wouldn't be the first time that kind of twist would be pulled, though. Oops! Oh yeah, speaking of the Blood Moon, it kinda sucked as a writing decision in general. By the writers having a plot point like this, it really only dug them into the rabbit hole. It prevented the 2 main characters from being happy in their other relationships, and it prevented the writers from actually establishing Starco while the curse was still active, because then that wouldn't be consensual, and that would be... In the end, it really only made the writers scramble to A. break the curse after it was almost completely ignored by the main characters for 4 seasons, B. break up 2 perfectly healthy relationships, and C. rush their favorite ship getting together. To summarize, Season 3 and 4's seasonal story approach really only led to underdeveloped and uninteresting plot points. The setting change really only made the show lose a big part of why people enjoyed it, and the complete discardal of the previous story only caused confusion and disappointment. Remember all that stuff about seasonal plot structures causing underdeveloped stories and stuff? Surprise! Underdeveloped stories means underdeveloped antagonists. Because now we get a new antagonist for each season. All the old antagonists? Nah, they literally do not exist anymore. Remember how Ludo became a literal god and 100% actual threat in Season 2? Whoops, he gets jack shit after Battle for Muni. He's seen briefly floating in the void in Sweet Dreams, then eventually he finally gets an episode that solely follows him. It highlighted more on Ludo's family issues. It also shows how that affects Dennis, and it establishes that Ludo is going through some mental problems. And even after we think we get a bit of closure, they sneak in a little hint that he's still insane and he's gonna possibly attack Star and Marco. Are the writers gonna ever bring that up again?
No!
Eventually, after a long time, he gets a single follow-up episode in Season 4. It shows him trying to move away from his past. The episode ends with him rekindling with his siblings to rebuild their family home. Honestly, I wish they focused more on Ludo's arc here. Trust me when I say this would have been more interesting than the large majority of Season 3 and 4. And with Toffee, you already heard me say that they never mention him again, which genuinely sucks. There were so many things about him that still needed to be answered. They did pull something nice at the end though and confirm that he was right all along, kind of. But even though he was right in the end, he's the only antagonist that didn't get off the hook. Meteora gets off the hook after killing the entire kingdom because she was turned into a little baby. Mina gets off the hook after threatening mass genocide because of... Why didn't we just kill her again? And Moon gets off the hook because she's Ma, and we can't kill Ma. But not Toffee, nah, he's dead. And it sucks, because Toffee had the most potential. I mean, especially if you take in consideration his boss. Oh wait, you didn't know?
Huh, what a concept!
If you didn't know already, in the official Magic Book of Spells, a Septarian named Seth was depicted. He was revealed to be behind the whole rebellion against the Monster King, and he led the war on magic and humans. Basically, Seth is the motivation for Toffee to kill Queen Comet and Queen Solaria. Seth is behind all of this. He would have made a fantastic endgame villain. This is an absolutely crucial part of the backstory, and the show failed to mention Seth even once. Why would you give away such big information in your book and then not do anything with it? And no, this isn't a simple fun fact. The overlord behind Moon and Eclipsa's mother's deaths is not a fun fact. This is serious shit, and it plays directly into the overarching story that we had. This would have been the best continuation of the story, and they did nothing with it. And also, for a full half of Season 3, we go without an antagonist. We have the running plot of Star trying to fix Muni's societal problems, but that isn't really all that interesting. And again, it ran for way longer than it needed to. The other plot is Star opening up the portals while she's sleeping, and in the end, we didn't even fully understand why that was happening. We never figured that out. And that plot didn't continue after the mid-finale. And same thing with Season 4. There was no antagonist until midway. For both of these seasons, 2 halves went antagonist free. That's literally a whole new full season where nothing happened. But as for the villains that we did get, well, here they are. She started out as a simple villain who aimed for Marco, much like how Ludo aimed for Star. However, once we learn the dark truth of her past, she becomes a walking apocalypse. One thing I like about Meteora is how she ties in with the Eclipsa arc, which, again, is one of the only interesting things about Season 3 and 4, and how it cleared up stuff from the overarching story. However, looking at Meteora overall, she was a really flat villain. Her primary motive was throne mine, I go get thrown now. And she essentially just killed everyone in her way to do that, which is a complete 180 from Toffee. The thing about Toffee is that his motives were complex and interesting. He carefully planned out every single move he would make, and he's a master of manipulation. And despite him having regenerative powers, Toffee was just a guy. A semi-retired war general guy, but a guy nonetheless. He didn't have some insane strength. It seemed like he had some sort of power outside of the regeneration, but the writers most likely forgot about that. And his arm gets blown off within a full 5 seconds of Star entering the room. Not even any of Ludo's army was ever hurt that bad. The most powerful part of Toffee was his 2 million IQ brain. Meteora was a brainless, power-hungry monster. She didn't have a plan, and this really made her uninteresting as a villain. And then in Season 4, we get Mina. This is the decided endgame villain, not Seth, not even Toffee again, Mina. Mina Loveberry. I guess they did an okay job of tying this into the racism story that dragged on for 2 seasons. Her character was at least consistent. From the very beginning, she was always the mad monster killer. But again, why is she the endgame villain? To be fair, there definitely was a lot of potential for a redemption arc. She was once a regular person. She only got corrupted due to the Solarian magic. They could have played with this idea to make the audience sympathize with Mina despite her radical views, but they didn't. They didn't do that. And they definitely could have utilized the demon bird more. Come on, that shit was terrifying, and we only saw it in action in Junk and Jaina. But no, she ends up being a lackluster final villain, tied in with a shitty plot twist. Oh, and about that plot twist, there's actually one more antagonist that we didn't cover yet. This plot twist was really dumb and it makes no sense. Here's why. Moon still distrusts Eclipsa despite having a gradual introduction to the new additions after losing her memory, bonding over various activities, and after Eclipsa profusely and genuinely apologized for what happened. Moon even accepts the apology wholeheartedly. Moon knew how much helping Eclipsa meant to Star, so why would she A, ruin that for her, and B, put her daughter in mortal danger to the point where she and her friends literally almost died. Moon claimed she kept me away from my family to try to justify betraying her, even though she was canonically completely ignorant to it during that time and it would have made absolutely no difference. And Eclipsa only wanted her daughter to not be killed? And last time I recall, Moon was the one that opened up the portal and fled through there. Eclipsa had no idea that would happen. And you say that, but Eclipsa had been kept away from her family for 300 years, you asshole. Moon knew how bad the Solarian times were and literally explained that to Mina in Ghost of Butterfly Castle, which is the episode that classifies Mina as an antagonist. She turned down her offer right then and there. Moon being fucking lazy this whole season completely contradicts her overly responsible nature we've seen over the past 3 seasons. Even River was confused as to why she was choosing not to stop her. And she could have at least told Star about it, knowing that she's living in the castle where Mina's planning to attack. That's your daughter. And also Moon was talking about Mina like it was only her doing shit. There was no we. Moon harboring an army of racists and doing nothing about it goes against her developments in Season 3, where she realized monsters are just regular people too. Moon weaponizing an army of racists is even worse in that context. Moon having her own little group where she teaches them how to provide for themselves was actually a really good idea. For the entire show now, we've only seen the citizens of Muni just being dumb blockheads who can't actually do anything for themselves. So this idea would have worked. Instead, it was just used as a pawn in a shitty plot twist. Coronation, Hekapu, and Omni are pissed when Romulus confesses to breaking Globgor out, and they brought up logical reasons why. And they were also surprised when Eclipsa announced that Globgor escaped. That wouldn't have happened if they were in cahoots with Moon. They would have already knew. And they wouldn't still be talking about Romulus going to jail even when no one else is watching. Even in Doop, she even says how she doesn't want to change a single thing about life. She says there's a beautiful simplicity to living in a yurt. So why would she uproot everything to try to take back the throne out of nowhere? Also, there's no way they could have gotten all that armor. That's like real, that's not magic or anything, that's real armor. And seeing how long it took Mina to get her full set, I highly doubt they just found 100 pre-made sets of it lying around. And this one, Moon claims by doing this, she stopped Mina from doing far worse. Like what, Moon? Like genuinely, I want to know what she fucking meant by this. What could be so worse that you had to intervene by giving her an entire army of racists with god powers? Literally, what could have Mina have done? Eclipsa used the darkest spell and insta-killed Doug. What would have been the difference if Mina was actually in there? The threat would be over like that. Moon has been shown to be one of the most level-headed characters throughout the show, and she apparently wasn't smart enough to consider the possibility of the army with extremely racist beliefs turning against her when she tells them not to be racist. Also, Moon didn't even have the Book of Spells. How did she know how to create the warriors? Did her past self just decide to memorize a spell like that, just in case? So yeah, there's our antagonists. At this point, it literally would have just been easier to continue the overarching story and have Seth as the endgame villain. But yeah, now for the big category. Okay, I'm gonna level with you guys for a second. I'm not sure if this can actually be compiled into an actual structured thing. So I guess let's just go down the line here. This is going to cover the entire show, whether it be stuff that they forgot from the first 2 seasons or just stuff that doesn't make sense in context. Essentially, this category is just a dump of problems with the show. Here we go! The Monster Arm had hinted that he would never be gone, yet he never actually ends up returning. It was hinted again in the Season 1 and Season 3 finale, but again, he never returned. Darren had said in the Ask Me Anything that the Monster Arm still lives inside of Marco, despite magic being destroyed at the end. Like, fully sentiently lives in there. It's not like Romulus or Omni or the puppies, it's just regular Monster Arm in there, and that kinda makes no sense. River and Star didn't know what a toilet was. Normally that would imply they don't have sewage systems in Muni, but Star also said humans put things in there, implying humans don't even shit. But then toilets are shown to be existing things in Battle for Muni. Star's family in Flag Day doesn't align with her family depicted in the Magic Book of Spells. Moon apparently has an aunt, so why didn't she become queen when Queen Comet was killed? Why did Moon automatically become queen? Speaking of the Book of Spells, it's stated that the old Book of Spells was burned. That's why all the past queens aren't shown. So what happened to Glossaric with that then? And no, there aren't 2 Glossarics. It was confirmed in Meteora's lesson that the Glossaric that we know was the one that gave the first wand to the first queen. In the book, it's stated that he's on vacation, and that's how he didn't die. And that makes no sense. Glosric is literally tied with the book. It doesn't matter if you're on vacation or not. If the book dies, you die. There's no way around it. Buffrog saying must warn Star was only used as a joke in Raid the Cave. He's illiterate, so Star couldn't read his letter. But, like, he has her number and dimensional scissors. He literally could have just told her in person, especially considering the circumstances of Ludo attacking and taking over Butterfly Castle. Star's spellbook is hardly actually brought up again, it's just kind of forgotten. Hekapu says that she forges all dimensional scissors to those that earn them. So how does Ludo have them? Or Buffrog? Or anyone? If Marco didn't earn those scissors after like 10 days of trying in the Never Zone, how the hell did anyone else get them? He spent 16 years getting those. Moon is so hesitant to give Toffee his finger, but it's never shown why. It's not like he gained some extreme power from it, he just reformed from it and walked away. Toffee's knowledge of Star and the royal family goes unexplained. Toffee was shown to have some emotional connection to the Great Monster Massacre. This was never covered or played with. Marco's nightmare had no closure to it. It seemed to foreshadow stuff about Toffee and the Blood Moon, but nothing came of it. Father Time warns about freezing time and potentially breaking it. So either could have been a foreshadowing thing or just an excuse for Star not to use the spell again to solve real problems later in the series. Also, they never explained how Bird and Spider returned after being sent to Britta's tacos. They just kind of show up on Muni without any question. Eclipsa's chapter was hinted to be really serious and dangerous, but later on they make it like it was just controversial magic. And they completely forgot about the effects the chapter had on Marco and Ludo/Toffee. And speaking of, they forgot about the hints that Toffee was connected to both Marco and Star. More on that is on my own separate theory video. The Whispering spell is completely different in Cleaved than it is everywhere else. Like seriously, the spell was only used 2 other times. You couldn't have just like looked up clips on YouTube of it. And yes, the old Whispering spell had words to it and you were able to tell what it was saying. There's really no reason to go and change it like that. It seems like more was going to be done with the whole Moon story arc. River's staff in the intro is a crescent moon. Marco's cheekmarks are a moon. Combine this with Eclipsa's dad telling Marco to go to the ball. Queen Selena's cheekmarks were crescent moons. I feel like more was going to be done with it. Oh yeah, about Eclipsa's dad. In Blood Moon Ball, while sitting around in Star's room, the painting of the sailor, who is revealed in the book to be Eclipsa's dad, speaks to Marco and advises him to go to the ball. Why though? No, like literally why? That's never explained. That was never explained. What was the reasoning behind Eclipsa's dad telling Marco Diaz, a random schmuck from Earth, to go to the Blood Moon Ball so he'd get his soul forcefully bound with his friend, which he had little to no romantic interest in? And before you say Marco was just interested in Star, let me tell you why that's bullshit. The only moments that could even remotely be considered Starco before the Blood Moon Ball are in episode 4A with just a nice little look, and episode 6A, which is Muberty, and it's Marco's and Star's interactions here. But that literally makes it indifferent because Star was literally attracted to anything that had a dick, and Star's interest in Marco ceased after that. And even after the Blood Moon, Marco didn't show any interest in Star until season 3. And hold on, allow me to define a Starco moment real quick. A Starco moment does not count as, they talked and they had a nice moment. Friends can do that. Literally anyone can do that. It doesn't mean that they're in love with each other. And their relationship for like 90% of the show is under the context of being friends. A Starco moment counts as either party showing romantic interest towards the other, like how it works anywhere else. That being said, here's the Starco timeline until Marco started showing interest in her. Season 2, episode 9A, Star's crush is revealed. Doesn't seem like she even fully realizes it though. She seems happy for Marco that he progressed his relationship with Jackie. The box was the one that confirmed it. And how do we know Marco didn't have a crush on Star at this point? The box literally confirmed that Marco was telling the truth when he said he had a crush on Jackie. Even gave him props for it. So we can confirm that Marco did in fact not have any romantic interest towards Star, otherwise the box would have called him out for it. Star begins to be jealous over Marco from Bon Bon up to the season finale, where her crush is revealed to him, and then she leaves Earth. Season 3, episode 8A, Star whines about Marco's hoodie losing his scent, and Marco gets the hoodie back and likes that it smells like Star. In a sophomore slump, Marco becomes obsessed with Star and Muni and gets dumped by Jackie. When he arrives in Muni and Lint Catcher, Star wants no part of him, as she's already dating Tom now. Marco tries swoosing in, but gets friend-zoned. So Marco only started to show romantic interest in Lint Catcher. But yeah, moving on. Selena is the only queen shown in Into the Wand that didn't really get covered. What were her secrets? Glosric comes back to life after Star threw a random piece of the book that she apparently had into the Magic Sanctuary. And her having that piece of the book makes no sense because we saw the book be completely burned on screen. There was no corner piece to that in sight. The only explanation to her having that thing is that they found it when they were searching the remains of the Monster Temple, even though the whole thing was burned on screen. So yeah, Glosric returns. but he can only say Globgor. He says that for the whole fucking season. He's done things like beat the shit out of Star in Nightlife and destroyed her room in the same episode, acted like an actual animal for the whole season, and in the end it's played off as a punchline. He had full mental capability that all that time he was just trying to tell her for months. This is a huge fucking problem. Don't pull that shit with one of the most important characters in the show. Evidently, Glossoric's voice actor was accused of getting all touchy-touchy, so they fired him real quick. But it seems like that threw off some plans for Glossoric's character. So they must have stalled the situation by pulling this stunt. Which kinda sucks. Literally take all the time you need to figure that out. Literally no one's rushing you, we'll understand. Regarding the whole evil Eclipsa tease, here's some moments that show that the writers were still hinting this. In Eclipsa's first real episode, Stranger Danger, Moon says, "It's complicated. Eclipsa can be very convincing." When Star asks why everyone's against her, Moon recognizes that she thought the same way when she first met her. That's never explained, neither is this quote. She also said she can get in your head and make you do things that you don't want to do. Again, nothing came of that. What did she do that happened like that? She had also given seemingly shifty advice to Star in Sweet Dreams, and even after season 3 they were still hinting this. In the season 4 premiere, sinister sound effects play when you see the monster temple. Eclipsa has the tendency to use her controversial magic to retrieve information / to get what she wants. This is used as a way to suspect that she might be shifty. But that never really got resolved. She stopped doing all that stuff once she got what she wanted, which was Globgor. Eclipsa completely dismissed the Magic High Commission's warning about powerful magic being used in the Monster Temple. And that's never actually covered again. We don't know what was actually causing that. And Eclipsa does another shifty thing by stealing the book piece and uses mind spying to find it. Not to mention them teasing evil Globgor. Glossoric screams his name for an entire season. There's sinister sounds when his crystal's first seen. Star is hesitant and hell-bent on not telling Moon about Globgor when she's regaining her memory. Star withholds the book piece in fear that Eclipsa will let Globgor out. And in surviving the spider bites describe horrible things that Globgor has done, like burning down their village and eating their uncle. This is never brought up again, despite the spider bites being present there at the coronation. And Eclipsa responds with, "The truth is a bit more complex than that, but yes." When confronted about Globgor eating the Human King, "We never ended up knowing the truth. What actually happened? Oops, they forgot about it." Eclipsa also reassures the spider bites that Globgor cannot get out and will not get out. But then he gets out, while they're at the event during coronation. Again, never mentioned afterward. The whole Jarco breakup is a continuity fluke, more on that later. Star makes Buffrog the royal monster expert, and we hear literally nothing of it for almost 10 episodes. Then Buffrog just gets up and fully leaves Muni for no reason, claiming that the racism problem is something that she can't fix. Even though monsters have been oppressed for hundreds of years, now the princess, someone with real power, is holding an active campaign to end the racism, so they just leave? It would have made more sense if the episode was released closer to Monster Bash, but in this context it came out of literally nowhere, and I called this in my reaction too. And Buffrog is not seen again until season 4 episode 10A, Cornball. So he's just fucking gone, full season gone for no reason. Ponyhead is still somehow able to fly when magic is gone and cleaved. There's just no sparkles. I highly doubt that the only connection that magic had with her species floating was just visual. River uses magic to attack Meteora. He apparently has magic with his staff. This is quite literally shown nowhere else in the series, neither before or after. In fact, that's one of the only times we've ever seen his staff in general outside of the old intro. Mina was defeated off-screen in the season 3 finale by Meteora. She used her soul suck powers to insta-kill her. That could have been used in season 4. It would have been so easy, we didn't even need to destroy magic. Assuming Moon wasn't so stupid. And they even established that Meteora could do it as a baby. Also, Meteora gets defeated and turned into a baby for no explained reason. This was something that could have really easily been explained, too. It could be tied back with her ability to create life in the episode Baby. But they didn't, and they didn't explain why Meteora just turned into a baby. In season 4, Star can suddenly do magic without a wand. Something that has been hinted / shown before with Moon, but requires years of experience. And Star has only had the wand for 1 to 2 years now, as Curse of the Blood Moon confirmed that 2 years has passed since the curse was first set on them. Star calls King Pie a liar when he explains that Moon is actually Piefolk, and the whole deal with Festivia. Even though she already knew that from the whole trial deal in season 3? You heard this exact same thing before, why are you calling him a liar? Romulus's other nipple demon's crystal breaks after he's smacked against a wall in swimsuit. This literally does not make sense in context. Those demons were there before the Fritz, so it's not even like the Fritz caused the crystals to be weak or something. And the whole conflict of this episode is Eclipsa asking Romulus to decrystallize Globgor because physical force does not work towards breaking the crystal. So why the fuck does the nipple demon get out? Star is confirmed as bi in Ransomgram because she blushed at a girl. Even though by that logic she was already confirmed in season 1, yet this is treated as the great reveal. Really goes to show how little the shippers actually paid attention to the show. Jana specifically hypnotizes Marco for 14 hours to not have any feelings for Star, but the curse bypasses this. So why does Marco still have feelings for Star after the curse is broken then? Marco's bullshit "the blood moon was baloney" comment directly contradicts this. Marco still wouldn't like Star if Jaina hypnotized him and the blood moon truly was baloney. Star held an integrated match of cornball between monsters and humans, but for some reason they were already color coordinated to suggest they'd be versing each other, yet she's upset when they don't shuffle the teams. Like, how didn't you see that coming? They're literally color coordinated. The Meteora's lesson episode really just ended up being pointless in the end. It provided some backstory, albeit backstory that we didn't really need because we already knew Toffee was at a war with magic, besides the whole first queen immunity thing. This is important, but it sets the foundation of the whole magic exposure explanation, which is actually a plot hole. Toffee is seen finally in flashback form. This is mainly to confirm that he was at a war with magic, which again is something we could already tell before, so thanks for nothing. Toffee is seen as like a loose cannon of sorts in this episode, but we never end up seeing anything about his transition from arrogant general to professional general, and then to professional business raptor. Glossaryk says, "I think Magic's gonna be in pretty good hands," implying that Meteora is gonna be a 200 IQ magic user. But Magic gets destroyed in the end, and Glossaryk should know this, considering he knows everything. In canon, knows everything. Unless they planned for the baby to dip down at complete will, obtain her butterfly form without going through puberty, or becoming anything more than a toddler, and say the whispering spell, which, sorry Chief, but I'm gonna call bullshit on that. Marco says he's been knighted like 9 times in the Never Zone, so why was being vaguely knighted in Muni the thing that caused him to go apeshit and obsess over it? I've said this before, but the Magic High Commission and Junk and Jaina tell Eclipsa and Star that some powerful magic is coming from the Monster Temple, and like I said, this is never resolved. Mina isn't in the Monster Temple, it would have made more sense for the magic to be coming from the Butterfly Castle. I believe this was an evil Eclipsa maybe moment, but they never ended up doing anything with it and they forgot about it. Just like all the other moments. Wasted time. When spells die in the spell dimension, it's never shown how that actually affects the outside world. Can Eclipsa no longer do those spells because they died? We have no idea. Never explained. Marco breaking up with Kelly was also bullshit. And just like the Jarco breakup, I'll explain this later. In the Monster and as Queen episode, Eclipsa said that Meteora just learned how to crawl on the ceiling, even though she's been shown doing that in the season 4 premiere. Also, Rasticorg regrew with his cybernetic arm, and it's never actually explained how he lost his original arm. Like, wasn't that supposed to grow back? What happened? The writers try to be slick by having Marco show up on Star's doorstep, mirroring how Star came to Earth. But in context, it doesn't make any sense. They had each other's numbers, they could have literally just called each other, and Marco has scissors, he could have visited at literally any point. It's as easy as walking into another room. This kind of big change literally should not have happened. Oh, and just a little note here, remember that intense fucking theme that actually made me scream in Into the Wand? The next time that theme plays is when they're running away from pigeons that shit everywhere after Marco breaks Rich Pigeon's leg. I just found it interesting how the definition of conflict changed. Throughout the last 2 seasons, there'll be random moments that just seem like the writers are stalling for time. Star smelling Marco's dirty hoodie in Scent of a Hoodie. In Ponymonium, when Star is trying to talk to Ponyhead, but she's ignoring her for like a full minute. Star describing the annoying noise she hears in Deep Dive. Star talking with the Ponyhead sisters in Bamoon Pati. And in the same episode, Star falling and it takes a full 20 seconds to get back into the action. The Kelly moment that directly interrupts the action in Conquer. Marco dances for a long time in Out of Business. Sloth Guy walking, slurping for a long time in Out of Business. And again, in Out of Business, we got this really long awkward sequence of them insisting that they're not gonna get trapped there. No siree, we're better than that. And there's no punchline to this, they just leave. Why'd they spend so much time on that? Really long eating sequence in Curse of the Blood Moon. Really insanely unnecessary conflict sequence in Curse of the Blood Moon that could have been easily used providing more closure to the ending. They really didn't need to make the ending so vague. They could have saved 3 minutes by cutting that whole conflict sequence. The time where Eclipsa and Star are waiting for the Magic High Commission in Junk and Jaina, and Sean is being a dickwad with his vegan, artificially grown in a factory donuts. And again, this time could have been used to actually elaborate what the Magic High Commission wanted to say and what was happening. Star and Romulus fight in the same episode, and it's literally the most pointless and tedious thing ever. Again, this time could have been used for elaboration. And regarding the comedy, I believe that the comedy was the category that stayed most consistent throughout the series. The show stayed pretty funny all the way through. Here's a few of my favorites for each season.
Yeah, we have something like that on Muni.
Hey everybody, it's me Otis. I'm back.
Otis!
I love you.
Otis, we love you!
Don't cry, River. Here. I just knew we had a connection, you little rat. Hey!
But even in season 3 and 4, they stooped kinda low. There's a fart joke when Ponyhead shits out treasure that she stole from the pigeons in Death Pack. The fart joke when Marco's taunting Star in Divide. Another fart joke with the alligator in Conquer. Fart joke with a mock play in Butterfly Follies, the season 4 premiere. And there's a fart joke when Marco's on nachos. Literal full fart though, why? Also, don't fart on nachos, you asshole. And there's Mina's fart analogy in Cleaved. Yeah, I don't know why they got really into those types of jokes in the latter 2 seasons. Okay, back to the other stuff. Nachos is put through seemingly thousands of years of suffering in the Never Zone. If 16 years in the Never Zone equals 8 minutes on Earth, and the Ransomgram girl says she was trying to deliver the message for months, for every Earth day, 180 years pass in the Never Zone. So 5,580 years for every month. She said months, plural, so that's at least 2 months. 11,160 years. At least 11,160 years Nacho spent there, freezing. Probably longer. In the season 2 episode Page Turners, Glossary's real miffed at the Magic High Commission for pulling him away from his work, but in the season 4 episode Swimsuit, it's shown that he could apparently be in 2 places at once. Yeah, they kinda put that in as a joke and didn't really consider how it would affect the logic of the previous seasons. Marco claims it took him months to get over Jackie, but let's count for a second.
Stay amazing, okay?
7 seconds it took for him to get the idea to leave. And here he is, parading a smile about it. Marco breaks his arm in the 3rd episode in a realistic manner. A little 14-year-old man probably would have a hard time breaking 3 pieces of wood and maybe the entire cinder block. However, we never see him get injured in general for the rest of the series. This leads into the next thing. It seemed like the writers never really planned for mutants and humans to be the same thing. One piece of evidence is Star constantly being surprised about regular human things during her time on Earth. Even this little movie scene suggests that they're completely different, and Marco is even hinted to be a mutant. I mean, a lot. He was hinted a lot to be a mutant. Yet the writers just chuck in a confirmation that humans were actually humans the whole time. This doesn't line up with Marco's strength though. If he's a regular human, why is he able to survive being thrown at a rock with enough force to crack it? Why is he able to fight a giant swole bird guy with no problem? Why is he able to kick a giant Meteora with enough force to knock her down? And why is he able to flip a horse? Oh yeah, and here's just a little side note here. By the end of the series, the Cheekmarks were said to be caused by magic exposure. This is a plot hole, here's why. Heinous was shown to have Cheekmarks, besides her life having little to no magic exposure. I believe that the writers were intending to limit the Cheekmarks to just the royal family. The Cheekmarks are shown again in the episode titled Heinous, Season 2, Episode 19a. Again, literally no magic exposure in this case. First thing that suggested that Marco wasn't actually human, besides his super strength, was the fact that Crescent Moon Cheekmarks appeared when Marco used the wand for the first time. Also, his wand had the same wings that are on the word evil in the show's logo, which ties into how much foreshadowing there was that Marco would eventually become evil. And this moment was before the whole magic exposure explanation, so it caused fans to theorize that Marco was actually part of the Butterfly family. Because even with Heinous, it was confirmed that she was part of the Butterfly family the whole time. But this is where it gets confusing though, because they also confirm that Star isn't actually a butterfly. So where did the Cheekmarks come from then? And I wouldn't say magic exposure because, again, that's a plot hole in itself. It doesn't line up with Meteora having them. Janna and Marco were both standing in pure liquid magic, so why wouldn't both of them get Cheekmarks in this case? Why didn't all of the original settlers in Muni have Cheekmarks when they were fucking drenched in it? Also, Janna clearly saw Marco with the Cheekmarks. It's weird she never said anything about them. And his Cheekmarks show up again in Booth Buddies, documented by picture, and Star never acknowledges it. And if they were caused by magic exposure, why would he have the same exact Cheekmarks as Selena then? In a lot of the moments of Season 4, the writers will occasionally throw in a vague explanations to questions that were brought up. Questions that I know for a fact a lot of people legitimately had. Marco and Kelly break up off-screen for no explained reason. Instead of explaining why, Marco claims it was a unanimous decision, even though it wasn't and Kelly is still upset about it. Manfred escapes being turned to stone. Eclipsa had established before that he'd get out eventually, yet the writers still feel the need to have him say, "Ugh, I do not want to get into that," when asked how he got out. Like, you didn't have to do that here. Star declines Tom's trip out of nowhere, using the excuse, "I need time to figure things out," or "I'm free now." despite showing no disinterest in Tom or the trip beforehand. Tom justifies the breakup with, "We're heading in different places," and never elaborates. Marco even asks why they're breaking up, and Star replies with, "It's complicated." No, it's really not complicated. Darren wants Starco, Dominic wants Starco, everybody and their fucking mother wants Starco. It's not fucking rocket science. And again, Moon claims that she stopped Mina from doing much worse in attempts to justify her betrayal, but she never explains specifically what.
Hey, did you guys know that in the official Magic Book of Spells book that there's
One of the problems that he knows throughout Season 4 is that the writers will often bring in stuff from the Magic Book of Spells book without any prior introduction to those who don't have the book. The book itself is $20 on Amazon, yet I could guarantee the large majority of the fandom doesn't have it, simply because it costs money. The first example of this happening is in Surviving the Spider Bites. Star keeps the book piece a secret from Eclipsa. I was initially confused as to why. As it turns out, there is a spell in the book that pulverizes Romulus' crystals. This was never shown or mentioned beforehand, yet it's used as a plot point suddenly. I still wouldn't have known that if you guys in the comments hadn't pointed it out to me. The next example is in the same episode. Glossaric silk bugs were shown and described in the book, never described in the show. Thankfully, this one isn't actually a problem because Eclipsa explains what the bugs do before they're actually used. Then, in Meteora's lesson, we get introduced to Ronaldo, someone who used to be a Magic High Commission member. In the book it said that he once spoke normally, but a queen put a spell on him so he could only speak in riddles, and this got him kicked out. This whole interaction confirms technically again that Glossaric is actually the father to all the Magic High Commission members. The original confirmation is said with 2 lines when the Magic High Commission is first introduced in Season 2. These are kinda completely forgettable lines, and considering how much screen time the Magic High Commission had overall, they definitely could have reinforced this more. Again, Ronaldo is only shown in the book, yet he's introduced like everyone knows who he is. Eclipsa uses the spell, the exact same one from the book, to try to free Globgor, without any prior introduction to those who don't own the book. This is a major plot point here. Why is there no introduction? Marco the Solarian Blade is only mentioned in the book, and context is given after Globgor is already inflicted with it. Yeah, moments like this really only confuse the people that don't have the book, which again is probably a lot of people who watch the show. When the story starts to get unintentionally confusing in a story-heavy show, that's not good. In The Spell with No Name, a skull butterfly spell is being tracked down by the rest of Eclipsa's spells. The episode confirms that this spell is Eclipsa's most powerful spell, and it's shown to be an insta-kill for anything that it touches. So, what's the deal with this then? Is this different than the raptor killing spell then? Why couldn't you just use this spell on Toffee, or vice versa? Eclipsa claimed that her mother started making the spell and then she finished it after she died. But that backstory is the exact same thing as the raptor killing spell, and it's confirmed that this isn't the raptor killing spell because they're done completely differently. So what is this then? Alright, so for continuity I think that covers it. Of course, the other problems are going to be brought up in a little bit, but for now let's talk about characters. Let me start this section off by asking you, what is the difference between these 2 intros? Did you notice that right there? Well, if you didn't, let me spell it out for you. Yo, where the fuck is everyone? Oh right, they're gone! As another side effect of the setting change to Muni, we lost all those various characters from Earth that we've known for 2 whole seasons and gave the show its initial charm. Oh yeah, and while we're talking about the intros, take a look at this. In the first intro, they loosely tell the whole story of the show. Magic Girl gets a magic wand, causes some trouble, her parents send her off to Earth, and she meets a boy named Marco. Along the way, we got various notable characters and Luda's armies running at them constantly. Boom, geniusly set up. What the hell did the second intro tell us? What story is there here? Doesn't show Marco coming to Muni or anything, they just slide down the castle and ruin dinner. Why are they fighting the goblin dog guy? The only parts that tell us anything about the story happen 30 seconds in, and they show up for 2 seconds. It's Meteora / Heinous, Eclipsa, and Toffee / Ludo. And the ending part is so sad. In the first intro, we see a shit ton of these characters, and I can name all of them from memory. They were all so distinct and memorable. In the second intro, we only get 6 characters, because that's pretty much the bulk of it. That's the bulk of the characters that we see in the Muni setting. For main characters, we got Star, her parents, Marco, Eclipsa, Ponyhead, Jaina, Tom, and Kelly. Secondary characters can count as Seahorse, Rubariat, and Fullduke. And of course, Monkey! Seriously, the monkey was fucking hilarious. I love the monkey in Season 4. But aside from these characters, who else is there? We've got guys like the laundry dude, Manfred, this family, polite giant monster person, and whoever else. I actually literally can't think of anyone there. And regarding Manfred, his literal character design is to be annoying. He's a nuisance whenever he's on screen. I mean, just look at his face. What an asshole. And a lot of the unnamed background characters are just plain annoying, because all of the background characters in Muni were only used for the racism plot and nothing else. Most memorable background character for me was the fucking Lady Raptor, because I screamed their name every time they were on screen.
Fresh.
Raptor! Spy. Raptor!
Honestly, who do we have? If you guys can point out some like memorable background characters that we had in season 3 and 4, point that out in the comments. I genuinely want to know. I can't think of any. Oh wait, we still have the Magic High Commission. Oh wait, the writers turned them into complete assholes, despite the various episodes in season 2 showing that they were decent people. Oh, but we still have Star and Marco. Oh wait! Marco goes away from being quirky and relatable and becomes annoying with his obsession with Star and Muni. That happened in sophomore slump. This is where his character takes a turn for the worse. He tells off Sensei for trying to be like him. He completely screws up his whole relationship with Jackie, something that for him had an actual decade of build-up, all because he wouldn't take off his fucking cape. He's a dick when Star puts him as a squire to the laundry guy. He's an asshole to the rich pigeons and breaks the prince's leg. And he makes various wisecracks after that, even though he's the one that caused this. He puts several dimensions in danger by not telling Hekapu that it's actually Star opening the portals in Nightlife. He put Star in danger for that exact same reason. He kept it a secret for his own personal entertainment because he liked working with Hekapu so much. He never talked with his parents after he left. Didn't even know he was getting a baby brother because he's too busy. And the parents even mentioned, visit any time, those scissors work both ways. And he hardly ever does, despite saying that he will. Completely doesn't care about Star's problem after her mom goes missing, his giant ego in the Never Zone, and neglecting nachos for 11,000 years, at least. Breaking up with Kelly for no explained reason, even though Kelly's side of the whole getting over someone agreement is not at all complete. And he knows she's been going through some tough times. That's all Marco. In Star's case, Star is seen being more responsible and princess-like in season 3. That's her whole reasoning for not going back to Earth. That's why she's staying on Muni. But she will still randomly do completely irresponsible things. Personality is split and it's going back and forth like a fucking metronome. She's overly responsible to the point where it's annoying in Princess Turdina. She adopts the idea of, I'm a teenager, I don't have to worry about shit, in swimsuit, and she leaves Eclipsa and Romulus alone, despite it's clear they're trying to kill each other. She acts completely childish in Ransomgram. She's a childish schmuck in Lake House Fever, unnecessarily mean to Rasticor and Yada Yada Berries, makes constant short jokes at him.
Thanks, little guy.
Not tiny, I'm compact.
She's irresponsible in surviving the spider bites by not looking at simple shit that's part of the tour. She's on a whole nother level of brat in Junk and Jaina, plain dumb and rude in Curse of the Blood Moon, and she's a straight up asshole in Doop, not to mention Cleaved. Star is shown downplaying Marco's time in the Never Zone. She ignores the fact that he spent 16 years there trying to get her scissors back. He did it for Star, and she never said thank you. She only uses him as eye candy in that dimension, despite her already having a boyfriend. All the buildup of seeing Star become a better person in season 1 and 2 gets fucking thrown out the window. I can't even pinpoint her personality at this point, she's all over the place. But that's okay, because after all, she's just a teenager. Teenagers are dumb, right? God, is there any genuinely good characters in this shit anymore? Tom! Peopleissimo Tom! I commonly say that Tom was the best part of the latter 2 seasons. His character arc was amazing. It starts out with him getting back together with Star, by her wants, specifically. This is after he came to realize that she wasn't interested, so he backed off for a while. He got a demon system and tried to become better for Star. His schmuck side still shines through in some places, so it's not like he unrealistically changed overnight. In Monster Bash, when he only looks for time with Star, ignoring how important the event is to her and for Muni. And then in Another Mystery, when he tries to pull Star away from finding Buff Rock. He apologizes to Marco for treating him badly and later calls him his best friend in Divide. Sacrifices his life for Marco even after he said he kissed his girlfriend. He fully recognizes how screwed up the Blood Moon actually was, and he regrets trying to take Star to it, and he felt so much guilt about Marco and Star being chosen. This kind of continuity is similar to Star in season 1 and 2. You know, when we see her legitimately grow as a person. It's nice to see that kind of thing again. And there's Eclipsa and Globgor too. Now, some people are happy that Eclipsa turned out good, while others would have preferred to see her evil. However you feel, it's indisputable that a large part of her character was the uncertainty of whether she's good or not. Season 3 really nailed this, with the constant kindness of Eclipsa contrasted by the beliefs of the Magic High Commission. The main deciding point seemed to be Butterfly Trap, when it's revealed that Meteora was switched out with Festivia, leading the viewers to see things weren't clear-cut. If not here, it would have been set in stone and conquered. where she's willing to kill her own daughter in order to save Muni. However, for some reason the back and forth of good and evil seemed to continue into Season 4, despite it seeming resolved. It was shown as the foreshadowing that Globgor was actually the evil one. This plotline, while less developed, mimics that of Season 3. While you could argue that it's different, Eclipsa is in love with Globgor, and thus making Globgor evil would likely make Eclipsa evil too. Situations like the spider bites painting Globgor as truly evil are never touched upon again, leaving these moments to have no impact. Really, it was just the same arc used twice. Eclipsa also had a really realistic personality. Her flaws are openly acknowledged, and they aren't all gotten rid of, but they don't get in the way of her being an enjoyable character, unlike others. Along with Tom's change, another arc that's similar to the growth that Season 1 and 2 had is Eclipsa trying to get the public on her side. While this again went on for longer than it needed to, I will say they did a pretty good job with showing things gradually changing. And as utterly annoying as the Ponyhead show was, it did do a good job of showing the progress towards getting the public on her side, right up until Coronation, when the public is seen being near 100% on her side. Okay, now let's get through the last of these characters. Ponyhead, widely considered to be greatly annoying. I hadn't really minded her until Flanderization, I guess, kind of amplified that annoying part of her in Season 3 and 4. Jaina, same as always. Thank you, Jaina, for staying consistent. Nachos. Kelly. Oh boy, this one's a real tragedy. Okay, so this will be covered more in a second, but I want to point out that like 90% of Kelly's screen time is her dealing with some relationship problem. Like, constantly. She's shown to be really upset about it too. Tad constantly keeps calling her to nag about how well he's doing without her. And on top of that, she gets wrestling ruined for her, as an extra kick in the face. She's shown to be literally depressed over it. And it sucks that the writers only decided to use a character like this for relationship drama. Okay, so that about wraps it up for characters. But wait a minute, I'm missing something. What was the thing that I talked about last time that I didn't talk about this?
All my plans are falling apart. Now that I know.
You know, the tame is part of any fandom, right? So remember when the shipping scene was actually good in Season 1 and 2? Alright, let's take a moment and go through each ship. Whether you like it or not, this ship had the most establishment throughout the series. Jarco build-up went on for so long. Marco was shown to like Jackie for his whole life. It made so much sense for Marco to eventually get with her. Most, if not all, of the shipping episodes in Season 2 was based off of Marco getting with Jackie. The ship had been set up since Season 1, Episode 2, and it's not a fan establishment, it's a canon one. And I cannot express how important it is that it was a canon establishment and not a fan establishment. It literally canonically said to our face, Marco likes this girl. Jackie's character kind of started out pretty flat. Moments like Naysaya and Marco's blunder and Bonbon gives her character. Oh, and one thing I found interesting. The Naysaya curse was said to prevent the host from asking out his one true love. So what happened then? Why would it appear when he's asking out Jackie then? Wouldn't it be Star? Overall, Jarco is a pretty solid ship with a lot of establishment. Canon establishment. The chemistry between Marco and Jackie worked surprisingly well, and their relationship helped contribute to the relatable feeling of the show. That all changed, though, in one fateful episode. Sophomore Slump. If you didn't know already, this episode is centered around Marco annoying everyone with his obsession with Star, Muni, and his stupid cape. This was a problem that was introduced only in that episode. When Jackie tried to talk some sense into Marco, it seemed to work. Marco agreed to be better for her, and again, it seemed like it was working. But he apparently just kept the cape in his hoodie, which causes her to break up with him. The only hint of this obsession is him wearing the cape for a brief scene in Season 3, Episode 8B. Nowhere else could we have possibly guessed that this would have been a problem. Jackie and Marco had been together for 3 months, and a lot of it was spent long distance. It is now also nearing the new school year. Evidently, Marco had spent more time in Muni than we thought. A Sophomore Slump was actually a fun episode right up until the ending. Episodes like that was what Season 3 lacked, minus the breakup, of course. This episode gave Jackie so much more character, it's a shame seeing it all thrown away like that. Oh, by the way, the "You're my best friend, Jackie" line is bullshit and it throws away all the previous establishment to the ship. Again, this ship has been building up for nearly a decade in canon. And then Marco just immediately leaves. Like the day after, kind of immediately. Like again, he got the idea 7 seconds after she broke up with him. And that doesn't make sense. This single episode completely throws away real buildup over the course of many episodes since Season 1. This single episode. The cape obsession was a problem that was introduced and resolved in the same episode. And it was resolved with him going to Muni. Also, I'm not sure what was so great about Muni that caused him to go apeshit. Literally the moment he arrived, it was a dump in shambles. Then Ludo took over, which only amplified that negative aspect. The only possible likable factor is Star. This way, it can also be inferred that the moon caused this newfound obsession. It definitely wouldn't have been the first time the moon interfered with the relationship. And this problem is immediately diffused and Marco's ego is put in check when he's laughed at by real Knights in the following episode. Turns out he was never actually a knight, and the cape didn't mean shit. We don't even see the cape again until Season 4, Episode 11A, Night Shift, when Marco actually gets knighted. And that doesn't do much anyway. We don't see the cape again, and Marco turns down being knighted after learning about the commitment required.
Wow, good job, Marco.
Good thing they throw out an entire ship over it then. But yeah, Jackie's completely written out of the show at this point. It's almost as if they only kept her around for a shipping drama with another character. Jackie eventually returns in the late Season 4 episode, Britta's Tacos. Writers attempt to add some closure to the tragic end of the Jarco ship by A. Having Marco realize that he was a terrible boyfriend and confirming that Jackie broke up with him because she thought he was in love with Star, which was actually true. And B. Having Jackie be implied bi. Now, I feel like this was an okay way to pick it back up, but I can't help but feel they're only doing that for the fan reactions and for the sake of being inclusive. But yeah, that's the end of Jackie's story. Next. Okay, so this ship technically started out in Season 1, as Tom had already dated Star in the past. The ship really took off when it became actually healthy and club snubbed, where Tom had accepted that Star isn't interested in him and he gave her space. Star eventually gets back together with Tom by her own want. She is now over Marco. Like I said before, Tom went through an amazing character arc. He betters himself for the sake of Star. Tomstar was actually being integrated to what was the story at the time, the racism plot. That honestly gave it more charm and made it feel legitimately important. It even had probably one of the best lines at the time.
I'm a monster, you're a human. If we can make it work, then there's hope for everyone.
Usually this would be sweet, if the ship wasn't only used as a ploy to eventually make Marco jealous. Tomstar kind of seemed doomed from the start, considering the Blood Moon and the loud majority of the fans and the people working on the show wanted Starco. Throughout its course, it demonstrated what seemed to be a semi-toxic relationship, but the show never committed to this path. So it's a strange in-between situation where neither partners are in the wrong or right. And speaking of that, Star was a terrible girlfriend to Tom. Here's why. Star uses Marco, someone she knows has a crush on her, as eye candy and ransomgram as well as Gone Baby Gone. Star never told Tom about the kiss. Marco did. And when Tom confronts her about that, she gets mad and tries to leave. Star commonly mistreats him and nags him about little things, throwing the lava suit on his face in Lake House Fever, angrily asking him to translate in Curse of the Blood Moon, blowing on his face after Tom wanted to kiss her in Monster Bash. Tom went through this whole arc of changing himself for the better, for her. He literally rebuilt his entire character from the ground up, all for her. Shown in the Lake House Fever episode, Tom went through so much for Star. And Star never returns the favors in any way. Star and Tom had so much history too. They knew each other and had romantic history since they were little. Star's horns were a gift to her from Tom, and yet she forgets about him in the magic dimension. Tom was at her going away party to Earth and she never noticed him there. Tom even let her know her mom is afraid that she'll hurt him again. And Star used the default excuse,
Everybody breaks up. That's what teenagers do. Teenagers are dumb.
Also, Tom didn't really have any other friends. He even said this in Friend Enemies. He started hanging out with Janna in its own episode, but only because Janna wanted to blast the bird. He considers Marco to be his best friend, but that doesn't help the fact that he's about to be cucked. What great friends. Tom literally had no one before they started dating again. And Star has the audacity to treat him like shit and run to Marco's dick right after turning down his plan of a romantic vacation. Moving on. Kellco had started out in Season 3, and it surprisingly had more build-up and establishment than I initially thought. Kelly x Marco is first introduced in Lava Lake Beach when they have a heart-to-heart. They bond over the fact that they're both having relationship troubles. Tad and Kelly broke up again, and Marco has feelings for Star that he can't get rid of or act upon. Marco doesn't want to be in love with Star, and Kelly doesn't want to be in love with Tad. There was actual, real chemistry between them, and the relationship was shown to be getting better and better since then. Kelly asked Marco to dance in Monster Bash. Kelly and Marco are seen hanging out together in Booth Buddies. Kelly and Marco tried doing a cooking segment on Ponyhead's show, and when it falls through, Kelly invites Marco to cook at her house. In Kelly's world, Marco and Kelly officially get together as breakup buddies. Also in the same episode, they were able to do a duel move, which was said to require perfect synchronization between partners. I feel like this would have implied they were pretty good partners. Kelly and Marco are only seen as an actual couple in the episode Cornball. This is after the Blood Moon curse was broken. Marco didn't even hang out with Star at all at this episode. They didn't even talk. Marco himself even further confirmed that breaking the curse worked, and Kelly is actually happy. Compared to how she was in Kelly's world, this is a miracle. She was dealing with borderline depression, if not actual depression, and the fact that being with Marco flipped that around for the better is amazing. But it all gets ripped away. After all of this, Kelly and Marco's relationship ends with an off-screen breakup. Now, I don't care who you are, I don't care what your show is. Never, ever break up a relationship off-screen. Why would you ever think that's an okay thing to do? That is just disrespectful to not only the characters that you created, but your viewers as well. If you're gonna go out of your way to have a whole episode dedicated to these two getting together, at least give them the respect of having an on-screen breakup. This off-screen breakup also made Marco look like even worse of a character, considering Kelly never really got over her hardships with Tad. She finally found happiness with Marco, and then he goes and breaks it off for no explained reason. And it's completely glossed over within 5 seconds that the breakup or the ship in general happened at all. This ship literally served no purpose to anything. Not to emotionally develop other characters, advance the plot, cause jealousy, nothing. Actually pointless. And Marco didn't give a single shit about Kelly after the fact. You dick. I don't care what you ship. Breaking up a relationship off screen is a horrible writing decision. Especially when you refuse to give reasoning after the fact. But why? Why would all these perfectly healthy relationships be just killed off like that? Unless... Okay, now, before I say anything, let me just restate that I used to ship Starco. Marco and Star were both very likable characters, and they would have worked very well in a relationship. And had things been done differently, I would have been all for a Starco endgame. But things weren't done differently. If you're a Starco shipper who's listening to this currently, I ask that you please at least hear what I have to say before you kill me in the comments. Now let me carefully explain to you how the writers managed to completely fuck up what is probably the easiest ship they could have done. In Season 1, Marco and Star were really close. They quickly became best friends, albeit a bit too quickly, and although there weren't too many moments that suggested romantic interest, it wasn't too far off an idea for them to actually get together. But then the Blood Moon happened. This one thing was enough to completely turn me off from this ship, and I'll explain why. Blood Moon Disqualifier. Remember earlier when I mentioned something that I like to call the Blood Moon Disqualifier? Well, like I said before, the disqualification factor means that all Starco moments from when the curse was placed to when it was broken do not count as actual Starco moments, as we're unable to tell if those moments were caused by the moon's manipulation and therefore are consensual. They are disqualified as actual, natural establishment to the ship. Here's a list of Starco moments. And in case you need a refresher, a Starco moment is defined as either party showing romantic interest towards the other. These moments were all during the Blood Moon's active period. We are unable to tell whether or not the moon actually had a part to play in this, therefore we can't determine them as consensual and natural. And in Blood Moon Curse, the curse is broken, and Star still shows signs of fully liking Tom, and showed no signs of liking Marco after. Star confirms this by still being with Tom and doing romantic shit, and Marco confirms this by staying with Kelly and doing romantic shit as well. Regarding the episode Booth Buddies, not only were they canonically held hostage until they kissed, the Blood Moon also shows up at the end, signifying that it had a hand to play in this. Seriously, the fact that a forced kiss, both through manipulation and hostage, is included in Disney's official Best Starco Moments compilation, that says something. So the moon ruined a relationship with Jackie. It shows up when they kiss and makes him think of Star, and makes him obsessed with Star and causes the breakup. It also got in the way of his relationship with Kelly. Marco literally said this himself. And I know what you're about to say, they deconfirmed the Blood Moon in a later episode. Well, I wouldn't be so quick to trust the things that were said in that last batch of episodes. Right now, we're going to label those moments under something called the Wendy Disqualification. I'll explain who Wendy even is after this, but she plays a large role in the next section. For now though, let me steer back towards the problems with how Starco was done. Along with the whole Blood Moon curse forcing them to have feelings for each other, the writers also really got into having the characters themselves say how much they didn't want to be together. In Season 2, Star had trouble with her feelings for Marco. On the one hand, she was incredibly happy for him because she knew how long he wanted to be with Jackie for. But on the other hand, she has feelings for him that are interfering with that. In Sophomore Slump, Marco's feelings for Star and Muni caused Jackie to break up with him. He didn't want this. He wanted to be with Jackie since he was a toddler. In Lint Catcher, Star literally wants nothing to do with Marco romantically and tells him off. And in Lava Lake Beach, Tad, of all people, tells Marco that he has a crush on Star. Marco replies to this with actual crisis and denial. Like, he is clearly not happy about this. And even the music in the scene suggests that he doesn't want this. In Booth Buddies, both parties react negatively to the forced kiss. I mean, there's times where they just flat out say they don't want to have feelings for each other.
I mean, I don't want to have feelings for Star. Every time I think I'm over her and I like someone else, I get marshmallows. Do you have a spell to make my feelings go away? But they hurt. I just don't want to have feelings for her anymore. This kills me. Let's go destroy our feelings!
Like, if this was the planned ship from the start, you'd think they'd try to make the characters at least a little on board with it. And even after both Marco and Star are single, the writers still take up several episodes without them getting together. Marco doesn't actually show any real signs of being romantically interested in Star until the episode Mama Star, when he confesses to her while under the influence of the magic dimension. And even then, they waste more time and then throw them together in the second to last episode. Then they try to make the relationship a major emotional factor in the finale. Honestly, this moment would have been much more powerful if they had just gotten together much beforehand, or even if they just stayed friends. The fact that they're willing to die over a relationship that just started in that same day is a bit weird and forced. But yeah, Starco didn't have any natural establishing moments, all because of this one writing decision. So really, this whole shipping thing was supposed to be a subplot, and instead it turned into something that completely sacrificed the pacing and quality of the story. Oh, and by the way, I called it. I called that the ship wouldn't work in the Curse of the Blood Moon episode.
Doing that would literally sacrifice the whole pacing and quality of the story. Because by the way, this show is ending really soon. There's not enough time to like naturally progress things in a way that Star and Marco are gonna get together. Unless they do some wacky times at the end. Which is definitely gonna feel forced.
Fucking called it. But this kind of behavior is completely justified, right? After all, they're just teens! Darren FC commonly tries justifying the shitty relationship drama in the show with the explanation that they're teenagers and teenager relationships are messy. She claims that having relationships jump all over the place like that is realistic. But just because something is realistic doesn't mean it's good. But this still doesn't justify the completely whack pacing or the fact that multiple characters and relationships got screwed over in the matter of days. And you know what, Darren? I think you're giving yourself a little bit too much credit there. What about this is realistic? I don't know about you, but I certainly haven't seen any teenagers do this shit. All of these characters were perfectly level-headed individuals. Breakups like these don't normally happen like that. And breaking up with your boyfriend, forgetting about him completely, getting together with someone else the day after, and then suddenly determining it's worth dying for isn't called being a teenager. It's called being a sociopathic megalomaniac. From what I've seen, the primary audience of this show ranges from tweens to young adults. Teenagers are right there in the middle. By pulling this shit and then turning around saying that's what teenagers do, teenagers are dumb, you're completely failing to cater towards your demographic. And I can imagine I'm gonna get a lot of comments ignoring everything that I've said and just saying you're just mad that your ship didn't happen. And while that's not true, let's say for 1 second, that I am actually upset that my ship didn't happen. So is everyone else. You have to understand one thing about this show. There was a lot of ships, and this divided the fandom into many little groups. One thing's for sure, Starco is the most vocal, but the problem is, by the end of Season 4, the writers had managed to piss off every single group except Starco. They pissed off Jarco shippers by breaking up a relationship with 2 seasons build-up due to a Muni obsession that was established and resolved all within the same episode. They pissed off Kellco shippers by ending a relationship with 2 seasons build-up off-screen for no explained reason. They pissed off Tomstar shippers by doing a breakup bomb nobody would have been able to predict from the show. I say specifically from the show because I was able to predict it beforehand by taking into consideration that the writers have a clear bias towards Starco. They pissed off Marco shippers by damaging/ending their relationship through Marco's selfishness. They pissed off Tomco shippers by teasing the ship carrot on a stick style, even though there's no canon probability of the ship anyway. The entire Friend Enemies episode and its promo art, Tom says, "If I kissed Marco, wouldn't you be mad?" Tom sacrificed himself for Marco. This little quip after the Kellco breakup.
Hey, everybody.
Oh, the lovebirds finally show up.
Hey, careful, Tom. Being breakup buddies isn't all it's cracked up to be.
And the performance in Coronation. In the end, the writers only catered towards the Starco shippers, and they didn't even do a good job of that. Various Starco shippers are upset about how terribly the ship was done. The large majority of the fans are upset, it's just that the Starco shippers that are happy with it are far more vocal about it. And Jesus Christ, some of you guys get way into this. Like seriously, telling someone to kill themselves, calling fan works trashy, calling people dumbasses over some dumb ship, calm the fuck down. Oh, and this isn't even mentioning the fact that the shipping game was fucked from the start. Did it ever occur to you that Marco is actually a 30-year-old man dating a 15-year-old girl? Now, they've offered explanations saying that the Never Zone works kind of like a dream. They claim that Marco doesn't really remember much other than skills and muscle memory stuff, at least until he encounters something that does make him remember. But regardless, the show canonically recognizes Marco as over 30 years old. And by the concept of time through human perception, Marco has been alive and growing for 30 plus years. And this wouldn't just screw up Starco, but it would screw up every other ship he's been in. Besides maybe Marco Poo, that one would at least be illegal. Honestly, that whole thing is like a creepy moral gray area that I don't want to touch with a 10-foot barge pole, so let's move on. Now that the shipping category is done, I want to take the time to look at each one of these ending episodes, one by one. This is what I call the post-Wendy era. Now again, I'm going to explain who Wendy is in a little bit, but just remember that these next episodes, these final episodes, something's wrong with them. Production-wise, something is wrong with them. So again, let's go through each one. Marco officially moves back to Earth, which was hinted in Night Shift. Eclipsa's father is shown briefly, under the name Alphonse, but nothing is ever done with this. Again, no explanation as to why he had Marco go to the ball. Star and Tom travel to visit various characters before they head off for their trip, but Star is shown to be stalling for time. Also, Tom even says, "I love you so much" in this episode. Buffrog specifically warns Tom to watch out for her, yet Star is the one who ends up hurting Tom in the end. Buffrog should have gave that warning to her. Moon says more things that directly contradict the upcoming plot twist. Star shows no signs of not wanting to do the trip, until like 3/4 into the episode when Doop is first brought up. Again, nothing would have suggested she'd back out, and the whole Doop encounter was downright uncomfortable. The encounter is funny in the context that it's Justin Roiland voicing Doop. This type of humor is right up his alley, but in the context of Star versus the forces of evil, not so much. Eventually, she hits Tom with the,
"I think I need time to figure things out."
Nothing about their relationship would have suggested this would happen. She was like 100% for the trip in the last episode and even in this episode. After Tom leaves, clearly upset, she immediately goes to the Diaz's house. And Marco Jr. is changed to a girl for like no reason. And they tried covering up the clearly random change with this little joke by Mr. Diaz. All just so they could go, "Ooh, look, Mariposa and Meteora as teens. Ooh, look, they're like sisters. They're all grown up. Ooh, look how strong and independent they are." In the episode Britta's Tacos, we get to catch up with all the Earth characters that the writers abandoned. Honestly, watching this, I really enjoyed seeing everyone again. But I couldn't help feel that this was like a hollow shell of what the show once was. Not to mention they kept bringing up the relationship shit, which happens to be the show's worst feature right now. You know what this felt like? Okay, imagine the fucking nuke drops on your city. The fallout of 1983 actually happened and everyone's dead. You survive and you wander the wasteland for 2 years, life constantly getting worse. Eventually, you find that some of your old friends that survived the nuke and you rekindle with them, only to find out that they're also dying because of radiation poisoning. That's what this feels like. It's nice seeing all these wonderful characters again for the first time in years, but I can't help but feel a sense of emptiness because of the hell we just experienced. Also in the episode, everyone makes jokes about Star and Marco having a baby, even though Star is 15 years old? Fucking gross and not legal. Literally so many people brought this up in the episode. But wait, if we combine this again with the moral gray area of Marco technically being 30 years old, and that makes it even worse. Jackie eventually has a chat with Marco and gives her blessing to date Star, which kind of completely takes you out of the moment to remind you that the writers are pushing their own personal wants and desires into the show. For those of you who are still accepting all this as canon, Marco even says himself that they broke up because Jackie thought he was in love with Star. From the very start, the whole premise of Beach Day directly interrupts Toffee plot given by Glossaric. Which is more interesting, the hint that the main antagonist of the show is actually good, or a Starco fanbait beach episode? Regardless, Beach Day is a very large premise throughout Season 4. Star is seen preparing for it constantly, and Tom is even told he'll be the one taking the photo. This poor lad. At its core, Beach Day is unneeded Starco fanbait. They didn't even start the ship in this episode. This was the last possible time for them to start the ship and make it work in the slightest. We sit through this very uninteresting episode where Star whines about the fucking beach. And this moment right here really made me stop and think about the images that were being projected into my retinas.
Seagulls go to the beach, I guess. It's just gonna run after this friggin' seagull. What an important episode.
At the end of the episode, Father Time says, "Too bad the hardest times are still ahead." This makes no sense. Step 1. Star evidently got the photo towards the beginning of the series. So how could Mina possibly be worse than Toffee, Ludo, Meteora, and all the racism shit? Spoiler alert, she's not. She's not worse than all of that. The writers just did nothing with that line. In Gone Baby Gone, Hecapoo comes to Marco's house while he's babysitting Meteora and Mariposa. She warns him to stay on Earth, do not go to Muni. And this doesn't even make sense in the end, because Marco had to go to Muni to even return Meteora in the first place. It's not like Meteora never returned from the whole babysitting thing. Then we get this really unnecessary plot point where Meteora and Mariposa crawl into the portal that Hecapoo left open and they enter the Never Zone. I can't help but feel that the writers changed Marco Jr. to be a girl and had this episode in general only to serve as like a time skip. Because again, wow, look at them as teens, they're so sisters! This episode doesn't amount to anything. It's a complete waste of an episode slot. Tom returns and immediately breaks up with Star. For one, I think it's definitely better that Tom was the one to break off the relationship. but he had said it's because they're going in different directions and not because she was a terrible girlfriend to him. This is again another vague excuse. And Tom even takes the time to give a vague blessing to everyone's favorite ship. And again, this just completely takes you out of a non-existing moment at this point. And I mentioned this before, but Marco claims it took months to get over Jackie. Huh, really? I think those 7 seconds suggest otherwise. Even Tom calls him out on this.
I get it. It took me months to get over Jackie.
Did it though?
Yeah, but did it really?
Seems like you were pretty quick to leave.
Star recognizes that something is actually wrong on Muni and decides to go there. In Jannanigans, Tom gives Marco his blessing to date Star, literally the day after he broke up with her. And he also decides to discredit the Blood Moon Curse, something that by his nature he is familiar with, and he even admitted to feeling guilt because he knew it was manipulating them, so that moment is just fucking bullshit. So even after they've established that some serious stuff is going down, the writers don't forget to shoehorn some relationship shit in. Star and the gang chuck Oscar's car into the well and have the Firstborn take them through the magic dimension to the Muni well. The majority of it is a filler episode, filled with the characters acting like dumbasses due to the effects of magic. Marco had this weird split 2017 moment, which would have suggested evil Marco, but let's face it, there's no way that the writers are going to tie up any loose ends at this point in the downward spiral. Instead, he spouts some shit about being in Star's pocket, technically confessing his love for her. That apparently just spawned out of nowhere, because may I remind you, Marco showed no interest in dating Star up until this point. Corruption from Moon's shit in the season 3 finale has spread in the magic dimension, and it's corrupted the unicorns there. The small unicorn from the finale shows up as a big horse and attacks the Firstborn. It's later revealed that she's dead. And Tom gets left there. Star never realizes or considers this, despite the fact they were dating just 2 days ago. More Starco shit with them raising a unicorn. It directly interrupts the tension and everything. Also again, if cheek marks are caused by magic exposure, why doesn't Janna have cheek marks? Or why doesn't Marco's appear? Janna puts a small corrupted unicorn in her hat, and it seems like it's going to come up afterwards, but it never is. It's never brought up again. Marco discovers that Mina is on her way to attack Muni, and the Magic High Commission is apparently in on it. So the Magic High Commission was also apparently in on the whole coronation tragedy, which is bullshit. But then Marco leaves to warn Star. Star meets up with Moon, and yet again, more evidence is given that contradicts the plot twist. She said she's staying there to defend the Yurt people, as she's the only powerful one there. For what it's worth, this episode did do a good job of painting Mina as a decent endgame villain. It definitely upped the dangerous meter. But this is pretty short-lived, because the following week they would release some of the worst shit I've ever seen in television. Star arrives just in time to save Eclipsa from being killed. She also brought her friends. She assembled people from A, different dimensions, and B, on complete different sides of Muni. She did that when there's no phone lines. Or portals. What happened? That's literally established the episode before this. How could you possibly forget that? Ponyhead is an annoying asshole here, says some dumb shit when actual people have fatal wounds. Also, they didn't even keep Seahorse consistent. He shows emotion and care here. He doesn't normally do that, you had one job. Then we got the typical inspirational speech sparks some big power-up cliche. Ponyhead is the one to give this speech for some reason. It would have been more powerful coming from literally anyone else. Also, her power-up is a random literal sense of plot armor. Really, where did this come from? Oh, and look at this. This is the worst offender. Eclipsa is holding a box of explosives in this scene. Then in the next frame, she's not.
I know every continuity mistake ever made.
Eclipsa uses her insta-kill spell, which again is different than the raptor killing spell. Star interrupts Marco, bringing crucial news to the kingdom and the livelihoods of all the citizens just for a cheap Starco moment. Next is the beginning of the shitty plot twist. Mina actually comes in after Dug is killed, and she has a whole army of Solarian warriors in Solarian armor. First of all, I initially asked, where did she get all these people?
What the fuck is this? Who the hell was in there then? Where the frick did she get all these people?
And again, where did she get all this armor from? It was difficult enough to get her own set. How did she get literally hundreds? And no, they are not created by magic. If they were magic, they would have disintegrated during the finale, but they didn't. In Here to Help, Moon and River fly in through River's eagle wife. She claims they're here to help. Now, River is actually there to help. He's a good lad. I love him. Moon, however. Speaking of River, he delivers the best line in this episode.
I'm going to get that man some meat! He is a king, for corn's sake!
He's a vegetarian.
Fine! I'll get him some chicken.
I can't get over that line. Moon sees for herself the effects of her betrayal. People are wounded. Corky fucking dies. Eclipsa and Star are hellbent on not using the spell again, even though mostly everyone in the village is either dead or hiding in the castle with them. so it wouldn't be much of an issue. Also, if they just chuck it at Mina and insta-gib her, it would likely just scatter the troops. Eclipsa even suggests this, and it was a good idea. But no, it's too dangerous, don't do it. And get this. While everyone's off to go do some important shit, Star takes Marco away to go take care of the pig goats. And now we get the worst fucking scene in this entire godforsaken show. So right off the bat, I'm already saying, why does this matter? Why are we doing this rather than anything else? Marco even points out that this seems a little random. Shouldn't we help out with the evacuation? You know, the thing that actually matters? Then Star replies with some whiny excuse about how overwhelmed she is. She brings up how her friends came to help but then got wounded and it's all her fault. Oh, so, I don't know, how about getting them to the magic sanctuary so they don't fucking die? Star even confirms that she's a bad person in this moment, but Marco goes through with it. Then we get this really long, unneeded, and awkward as fuck scene of the two of them slapping and fingering goats' asses. But hey, Marco's so quirky, look at him, relationship goals, he doesn't like their eyes, he's so weird. Also, the goats canonically have assholes, so Marco literally was fingering a fucking goat. Oh, and look, the pig goats are conveniently helping them with getting together. And then it happens. Star tells Marco that he confessed his love to her while under magic influence. Marco confirms this despite not showing any signs of liking her prior. Again, literally no actual signs until Mama Star. And now we get the most insulting line.
You know the whole blood moon curse? That ordeal? Well, it's baloney. I felt like this since the beginning.
This line, everything about it is wrong. Marco canonically did not show any interest in Star until season 3, and this line is just the final confirmation that the writers have zero interest in quality storytelling, and the images being projected into my retinas and the sounds I'm hearing is just a hollow and shallow shell of what was once a fantastic show that happened to be created by writers who will sacrifice any quality they had for the sake of desires/ship of themselves and a rabid fanbase. Then they kiss. Eventually, they finally get the fuck back to the important shit, and we find out that Moon betrayed everyone. Now, I've already said why that makes literally no sense, so we're just gonna move on. This episode starts out with a flashback to how Mina was recruited into the Solarian army. We finally got to see/hear Solaria, one episode before the finale. This flashback is short-lived, it only lasts about 2 minutes, and it establishes that Mina was once a sane peasant girl who joined the army out of ignorance. But they never do anything with this. Mina never returns to sanity, nor is this ever used to induce sympathy from the audience. Again, nothing. Cut back to reality to see Star fighting with Moon about the twist. Moon claims she stopped Mina from doing much worse, which again doesn't make any fucking sense, and she claims she doesn't like Eclipsa because she was trapped in the magic dimension because of her, which again, bullshit, she was ignorant to the whole thing, and Eclipsa says, I tried my best, but it appears my best wasn't enough. But she was literally doing fine. The majority ended up supporting her in the end. The only reason this happened is because Moon kept these people from dealing with reality like everyone else. Moon also claims she never intended for the soldiers to attack monsters, even though she literally already knew that all the townspeople were racist assholes who would attack monsters if given the power, and she acts like this isn't a big deal. They're literally about to cause a genocide and they've already wounded various civilians. We also get a scene of the Magic High Commission. Romulus is now a 100% irredeemable asshole. So is Omni. Even Sean, who's supposed to be just neutral to everything. Hecapu's the only sane one. Eclipsa surrenders the throne and Moon tries to call off the warriors. But big surprise, they don't do it! Also, the oath excuse for the power spell makes no sense.
This wasn't supposed to happen.
Wow, good job!
Star seemed to be the better character here for calling Moon out for her bullshit. And on top of this, we get a half-hearted This Is Sparta reference. But then Hecapu rescues them just in time. Thank you. Meanwhile, River is actually just the best character. He helps Globgor escape Mina and he's taking them to the Magic Sanctuary. Thank you, River, for being one of the only characters that stayed consistent throughout the whole show. Then in Tavern at the end of the multiverse, it starts out with a really dumb Marco line that has no business being there in the first place.
Heckapoo, we were kinda in the middle of something.
I'm sorry? You were literally about to die, Marco? Shut your mouth? Hecapu decides that a better solution is to hide out in the tavern. Eclipsa eventually tries going back to help her husband.
Globgor needs my help. Yes, but it's too dangerous.
Nobody likes you, bitch!
Star is actually the good character here for calling out Moon. I've already shown to you that there's literally no reason for that plot twist. Star even goes as far to say that she's a stand in the void, where she doesn't exist. The writers also try justifying the plot twist by shoehorning in some fabricated flashbacks of Moon asking Romulus to release Globgor, and also shows her creating the Solarian warriors. Corky dies due to the Solarian wound. Again, it's Star's fault for not helping with the evacuation. Also, no evacuation actually occurred. What happened to everyone else helping with this part? Why are they still in this room? Star throws a temper tantrum and suddenly declares that she hates magic. Now she wants to destroy it. She also somehow comes up with the idea that using the Whispering spell in the realm of magic would work. In the Grammar room, the past queens are seen. Although for some reason Moon's cutout is seen here even though she's still alive and out there. She's not seen in the grandma room. Star's tapestry is finished, showing her destroying the magic. But then Star begins to whine about how Marco isn't in the tapestry, despite the fact they've only started dating within the same day. Star left off her, Janna, and Marco when explaining where the magic put them. Somehow completely forgot and left out Tom. Glossaric also confirms that destroying the magic would destroy him and, by extension, all magical beings. And then Star says the line confirming that Toffee was right all along.
Have to destroy the magic. I guess this means Toffee was right.
Yes!
Surprise! This is the last moment I felt actual happiness with this show. And again, it's also the last sighting and mention of Toffee. But we're not done yet. We have one more. So here we are, the series finale. For starters, the intro isn't even changed, it's just shortened with a very sloppy edit. Both Eclipsa and Moon seem apprehensive about Star's plan. Star explains her plan to Heckapoo and she just nonchalantly agrees to help her by opening the portals. When Marco asks if she'll die from it, Heckapoo only replies with,
I always had the feeling this stuff did more harm than good.
She's apparently just okay with dying, and Marco just says, oh, I'm gonna miss her. She's going to die and you've known her for a long time, like over 16 years long time. I feel like you'd be more upset about this. Marco takes the wand and we see it transform back to the wand we saw in Season 3. Eclipsa says,
Are they?
even though the last time Eclipsa saw a Star, she was just about to go on a perfectly fine romantic getaway with Tom. Now she suddenly comes back and she's with Marco. Also, the firstborn is dead, it got ganked. Then the writers pull a trick out of their magic hat, and now pudding is apparently the secret to not losing your mind in the magic dimension. And conveniently, Marco happened to get a bunch of them. Then she says,
yeah, magic's weird.
Which is another beat around the bush statement. We see the corrupted horse and Tom is riding it. Star seems surprised that he was still in here. Again, she forgot about him despite the fact they broke up 2 days ago. Speaking of the horse, it's really fucking loud and annoying.
Is that...
Like, shut up! Mina and the rest of the warriors happen to find Eddie, River, and Globgor near the sanctuary. They pull the thing up and conveniently hear Star saying the whispering spell. You know something funny about this? Not only is Star considerably far away from the Muni well, she's also saying the whispering spell. You know, you're supposed to whisper? Also, now the whispering spell is completely different than the times we've seen it before. Like, again, before, you're still able to hear what she's saying. They made up actual words for it. Why did they forget this? It's really not that hard. And again, the spell is only used 2 other times in the show. You can literally look up the clips on YouTube if you're too lazy to watch the episode back. Moon comes by and says, please stop, which confirms that she's still against the idea. Also, how did they even get here? And in literally 5 seconds, she changes her mind and agrees with Star. Even Eclipsa. With that being said, Moon is forgiven way too quickly, especially since the fact that she's the sole reason why magic needs to be destroyed in the first place. Marco learns how to do magic in a very short amount of time, considering that magic is usually something that requires years of training. Also, his cheek marks don't even show up while he's doing spells. One of the only good parts of this episode is when my wish gets fulfilled and the unicorn gets kicked.
Yeah, doesn't that sound great?
No, I'm gonna kick you across the room.
He's the one with magic now!
Kick him.
Marco feeds Tom the pudding, but gets physically stabbed all the way through by the unicorn's horn. Physical, mind you, not a magic wound. The stab wound is hinted to be a serious thing, but is later scrapped in its entirety with no explanation. Meteora also uses her butterfly form, again, despite never going through puberty or becoming anything more than a fucking baby, and also starts using the whispering spell. And if she's not saying the spell, then what is the point of this part? Corrupted magic is the same goo that Toffee was made out of in Battle for Muni, yet no mention of him is even made in this episode. The antagonist for 2 whole seasons, just forgotten. Past queens show up in ghost form, and now all the queens are apparently happy because they're destroying it, even though they were upset and angry about it in the last episode, and they even help out? It did lead to some of the only good parts about this episode. Moon seeing her mother again, Blier rejecting Mina and seeing Meteora, finally give some closure to their complete opposite views. This was much needed, but it only lasts for 8 seconds. Mina enters the realm of magic and gets trampled by the loud horse. Not sure why the horse conveniently went towards Mina and not the people trying to destroy him. Marco celebrates about flipping an average sized horse, even though he's been shown to do much stronger things in the series. And again, him being so strong in the first place makes no sense because he's still a human and not a mumin. Magic gets corrupted fully, and the same stormy environment we saw in Battle for Muni is seen. and the queens start to disappear. The next conflict is Star leaving Marco behind. They have to go in separate ways. Marco needs to go to the Earth Well, and Star needs to go to the Muni Well. But then Star randomly decides that she'd rather abandon everything and everyone to be with Marco, and she jumps back into the well, except the Earth Well had already been closed, and Marco evidently decided to do just the same. Also, the Earth Well just so happens to be pretty close now, and it doesn't really add up to the long time that it took to get there in Mama Star. Glosrick's final line is kind of ruined here. His last words are, "But the kid's still here," which is a pretty big downgrade from this.
Well, a good captain always goes down with his ship.
Just little details like that add up and make this a really bad episode. Marco's Cheekmarks show up again in this next part, but nothing ever comes of it. Again, I think this plot point has been scrapped by now. Star and Marco then do something through the power of love and create a link between the dimensions. And this really only implies that relationship love can do this. Again, it really would have been more impactful if they were just best friends, because that at least had 4 seasons build up. Their romantic relationship had 2 episodes. Then they teleport to where they belong. Star, Moon, Eclipsa, and Meteora no longer have cheek marks, confirming to us that it was caused by magic exposure. And you already heard me say why this is a plot hole, so I'm not going to waste your time more. The Solarian soldiers turn back to regular people, and most of them just go, "Wow, that was real scary. I'm reformed now." Or, "Haha, we're free." There's no actual punishment for their actions. Mina is still insane, just without any powers now. Moon tries to help her, but she declines, and then this random monster girl tries killing her. "You missed a little." Then Mina spouts some ominous shit about how she'll never really be gone and walks off with Manfred. No punishment for Mina, at all. At this point, everyone's off the hook. Meteora is off the hook, Mina's off the hook, all the townspeople are off the hook, Moon is off the hook. Toffee was the only one that wasn't off the hook, and he was the only one to be confirmed to be in the right. It would have been so simple to give Toffee a proper farewell. They didn't even need his voice actor for this. This would have been something, and it was so easy, but they didn't do it. Also, Globgor, someone who was hyped up for a full season, didn't have a single line in the series finale. Ponyhead is apparently still able to float, even though that makes 0 sense. Although it probably wouldn't leave the best feeling if Star knew she crippled her friend's entire species. Star starts to feel guilt and sorrow because she'll never see her friends again. Marco, Kelly, and Talon are all from different dimensions. Then the writers give a sad attempt of like an epilogue of sorts for all those characters that aren't on Muni. Kelly is apparently so happy on some adventure right now, despite the fact she'll never see Marco or Star or anyone again. Talon is bragging at some bar, which honestly that's probably the most likely thing out of all of this. And these aren't even real epilogues. This is through the fucked up mind of Ponyhead. We don't actually ever see these characters ever again. Ponyhead asks what happened to the Magic High Commission. We see that Romulus and Omni are dead. This is played off as a joke, despite them being really important characters. Here's what isn't a joke. Hekaboo is dead. She was actually a good person that had multiple episodes dedicated to building her personality and relationship with Marco. Ronaldo is dead. Died without ever getting his father's love or approval. Glosrick is dead. The most important being in the multiverse is gone. All those spells that had multiple episodes dedicated to them? Yeah, those spells that all had families, friends, complete sentience, thoughts, and aspirations? Dead. All of them. Father Time is dead. Those animals that helped turn his wheel are dead. In that case, Time is dead too. No one's pushing that fucking wheel. Doop is dead. And the laser puppies are apparently not dead. At first we were very skeptical of this, as it doesn't really make much sense. The puppies were made from magic, they just poofed out of existence through Star's wand. How did they survive and not the Magic High Commission? But later on we were given an explanation that makes sense a little. There's still problems with it, but I'll cover that in a second. Star destroyed magic with only Muni in mind. She never considered the dire consequences. Countless dimensions with societies that rely on magic to function are gonna collapse. She didn't care that she'd never see friends like Kelly again. She didn't care that it would cripple the Ponyhead's entire species, because again, the fact that they could float without any magic makes no sense. And she didn't care that she would cause a full genocide on magical beings. She never considered that destroying magic would render them powerless against any remaining Septarians who still have grudges on the Butterfly family and humans. Like, oh, I don't know, Seth? Because hey, by the way, he's still alive, canonically. Where is he? All she cared about was not being able to be with her boyfriend that she only started dating within that same day. TV tropes have summed this up pretty well. Any other civilizations in the multiverse that relied on magic for one reason or another will, at best, face significant societal upheaval and chaos, and at worst, collapse entirely, if they don't outright die with magic. The actions of the 4 butterflies were meant to avert potential genocide of the monsters, but they ultimately caused a genocide in the process. And again, Marco's physical wound just disappears. Why did they even take the time to have that happen in the first place? Janna gives the best last line she could ever give.
I know how to drop my pulse to 0, but only for 60 seconds. Run!
A portal appears on both sides, suggesting that it's not going to be as simple as no magic, so they're separated. Now we get this running sequence, where the writers desperately try to make this seem more like a finale by chucking in a bunch of background characters and references. But similar to Britta's tacos, this only feels empty. The music is good though, that's one thing that never changed about this show. Brian H. Kim is a good lad. His Jeremy is awesome joke is god tier, I love this man. Ludo, an extremely crucial part to the show's story, gets 4 seconds in the series finale. Portal explodes and somehow combines Muni and Earth. This still doesn't help the fact that Kelly, another big character that was friends with both Star and Marco, will never see any of them again. The writers then paint this as a happy ending. Oh nice, the worlds are combined so they could be together. Look at these nice colorful backgrounds, ooh. Despite the fact that this would cause mass chaos on a universal scale, not only does Star uproot 2 or more dimensions for the sake of being together, they likely caused the racism to get worse, caused governmental panic and chaos by merging a monarchy with a democracy, caused mass panic to both sides, citizens are not used to this and they are literally screaming. I don't see very much happy about this situation. But don't worry, because they could be together now, and that's what we've always wanted. Right? So fans were pretty mixed about this finale. Out of every episode, this is the one that people were most critical of. Darren had stated that she thought the ending would be satisfying to everyone.
Lots of fun and adventures, a lot of Eclipsa, a lot of surprises. I think everyone's gonna really enjoy it.
Are you sure about that?
Evidently, that wasn't the case. Darren would continue answering non-important random questions on her Twitter up until 3 months later. And Ask Me Anything was held on the official Star vs. the Forces of Evil subreddit. It was held by Darren Nefsey, the creator, Dominic Bizignano, the supervising producer, Aaron Hammersley, a writer, and Adam MacArthur, Marco's voice actor. It was kind of a disaster. They mainly only answered the simple ones while dancing around the important ones. They would also take the time to respond to things that were clearly answered in the show, and some of the answers they did give to the important questions were just downright confusing. Was there a planned Season 4 intro? It felt weird to still have to go through the Season 3 intro, because it was so outdated, still seeing Ludo taken over by Toffee and all. Agreed.
This is all very nice, but it doesn't solve the mystery.
Or this one's a classic. Does Toffee have a backstory, or was he just included for the plot?
Yes.
That's it?
No.
Like, what even was that? Also, apparently Toffee's a historian, and that's how he knew about the Whispering spell? I'm not so sure about that one, Chief. I highly doubt the spell that can delete an entire element of the universe can be found at your fucking local library. Also, that still doesn't explain how he knew that that was the first spell her mother taught her. For all we know, the first spell she taught her was fucking Doop. And apparently now, Toffee's only motive was to just get his finger back, even though they literally confirmed in Season 4 that he was at war with magic, and that was his motive. Tom can apparently still make portals, even though that was shown to be controlled by Hekapu's magic, and both Hekapu and magic are now gone. And any question that even remotely suggested anything bad about Starco or its arc either got downvoted into oblivion or removed by the subreddit's mods. Oh, but nothing takes the cake like this right here. So evidently quite a few people were asking about Seth, you know, like the giant overlord of the series. So let's see what they responded with. According to Dominic, Seth is still alive. Evidently he was included as a fun fact in the book, but he would be the antagonist if the show had another season. Alright. Yeah, you know, that fun fact part is kind of whack, you know, that's kind of a big thing to have as just a fun fact. But oh well, yeah, good answer, good job. Let's see what Darren said. Seth has been dead for a long time. We only get so many episodes per season, so he'll just need to be in the book for now. Okay, so according to Dominic, Seth is alive, but less than 15 minutes later, Darren comes in and says he's been dead for a long time. Did you guys just contradict each other when you're in the same fucking room?
How did this happen?
Did you guys, like, talk to each other during this? Did you guys make eye contact? Were you even in the same room, or was this photo taken 3 days prior during your lunch break? Like, what happened here? Also, I find it interesting how Darren's favorite episode of the show is the episode where the main characters are held hostage and forced to kiss. The other one is fine though. Into the Wand was a fantastic episode, and I agree with her decision there. I also find it interesting how Darren didn't understand the cliche of boy protagonist and girl protagonist get together at the end. So yeah, the Ask Me Anything was kind of a disaster, but it doesn't stop there. Part of me wishes it did stop there, but it went further. After the Ask Me Anything ended, one of the people on my Discord, Inazuma, had taken to Twitter to voice their disappointment. Evidently, Marco's voice actor, Adam, saw this and decided to retweet it and call him out. Like, he didn't even know why we were upset or anything, just yoink, post it right there, call him out. Now before I continue with this part, let me just say that Adam is a good person. I don't have anything against Adam. Adam, on the very rare case that you're actually watching this, I respect the work that you do, and you were the perfect casting for Marco Diaz. Now him retweeting that had gotten a few others from the Discord, myself included, involved. We eventually asked him some questions about the show, and for the most part the answers that he gave lined up with that of Darren's. Common answers like, that's just how it is, or, oh sorry, that's how they be. However, a few things did actually end up getting answered. We got some insight on the magic genocide. So essentially there's two outcomes to the effects of Cleaved on magical creatures. Magic is used to create actual organic material, i.e. puppies. Magic is further used to give them laser capabilities. When magic is destroyed, the laser power goes away and they remain as regular puppies, made from organic material. Darren's explanation of the puppies being alive actually makes kinda a bit of sense. However, there's no telling who dies and who gets to live then. Warnicorn from Battle for Muni died, they didn't just turn into a regular horse or anything, and by that logic, the sentient spells would still be dead. And also the fact that magic could create organic material like that is something they really should have said in the show. That's kind of a big thing. Like again, all these answers are coming after the fact. They were not put in the actual show like they should have. We're reaching some J.K. Rowling type shit here. I stuck in one last question for Adam, but he was unable to respond. Regardless, thank you for your time, Adam. Again, I respect your work. So overall, looking back at this show, it was kind of a mess. So what happened? What went wrong? In 2018, Dominic Bizignano replied to an anonymous ask on his Tumblr account. In the reply, he had confirmed that Star vs. the Forces of Evil was being written as production went along. And you're able to see this in action right here. Darren tweeted out after the finale of Star finished production, 1 month before it aired. Now, this writing method works if you're writing like a fun cartoon like SpongeBob or something, but if you're writing like that for a story-filled show like Star vs. the Forces of Evil, that's a big problem. Writing without a set plan is dangerous. You're more susceptible to forgetting past plot points you established. And sure enough, there are a multitude of plot points that they set up in previous seasons that they didn't do anything with. I really don't understand how Dominic flaunts this like it's a good thing. Every person I've asked about this has agreed that this is a terrible idea. If you scroll down, you'll find a post of him contradicting himself when he's accused of pandering to Starco fans. And I love how he suggests that the fans have no influence on the show in that way, yet if you scroll up for 2 seconds you find this shit. Also, Darren had said in this interview something that suggests otherwise. By writing as they go along, they're able to see what works for people. So yeah, they alter stuff based on fan reception. Also, Darren in the Ask Me Anything had said that she had started working on Star since 2007. Even though the premise that she pitched in 2007 is like completely different than what we have today, she had originally wanted Star to be a 4th grader who only thought she was magic. I'm not sure what kind of story could have come out of that. And in the same interview, she says this: "When I started pitching Star in 2007, no one wanted to make a show with a female lead character." I'm not so sure about that one. Alright, getting away from the interview, I'm not done yet. While rewatching the show, I decided to pay a bit more attention to the credits, and I discovered something. Throughout the show, there was a role called Continuity Coordinator, held by Wendy Jacobsmeyer. As the name suggests, she's in charge of continuity, and mainly making sure they don't break it. Wendy stayed with this role for the entire show up until Coordination, where she's suddenly placed as animation checker for 2 episodes, and then gone. Wendy is completely taken off production, and no one holds the role of Continuity Coordinator. The role was gone in its entirety. Why? No, literally why? Why would you remove a role that's sole purpose is to make sure you don't break continuity in a show that has a lot of story and continuity? No matter what way you look at this is a problem. Writing without a plan and then taking away the one thing that prevents you from making mistakes is a flaw. No way around it. But wait! Disney rushed them! Disney bad! Okay, let's say for a second that Disney did rush them. I get it, it happens. Problem is, they decided to prioritize shipping drama over the story almost entirely. Even if they were told, hey, by the way, this is the last season, like midway through the season's production, they still made the wrong choice by choosing to ignore so many loose ends in favor of shipping. But hey, wait a minute. What's this? Darren confirmed herself that she knew she was only getting 4 seasons prior to all this? So what the hell happened then?
Then what was the point of any of this?
Okay, now, again, I just want to restate, I don't have anything against you guys as people. I'm sure you're both very nice and sweet people, and if we talked over lunch, we would have a good time. I'm sure you're all great people. But as show writers, you guys got some stuff you gotta work on. And that's what it boils down to. This was Darren Nefsey's first show. Most writers' first shows don't even get this far. She had a show that had the potential of going down as something amazing, but in the end, they dropped the ball. In case you don't know, Gravity Falls is pretty much unanimously held on a high pedestal. You should want your cartoon to be a Gravity Falls. This show had the potential to go out as a Gravity Falls. The problem is, it went on for way longer than it needed to and left too many loose ends open. The most loose ends were established in the previous seasons, or the book in Seth's case. And it primarily deals with Toffee / Raptor plot in general, and Star's family. What was the whole in-between from the Battle for Muni flashback to when we saw Toffee in episode 8? Where is Seth, or anything about him really? Does he even exist at this point? Because he was a thing created after Battle for Muni. Where was Toffee even gonna go after he succeeded? How did Toffee really know about the Whispering Spell? What's the deal with Toffee's hinted connection with Marco? What's the deal with Selena, or anything about her in general? What are her secrets she apparently had? What is Marco's connection with Selena? Where is Marco's monster arm? What's up with Marco's Cheekmarks? And again, magic exposure is not a reasonable excuse. It could have been so easy connecting it back to the Butterfly family, considering Eclipsa's dad's little cameo here. Though it still wouldn't explain why non-Butterfly family people, like Moon or Star, still have them. So really, Marco's Cheekmarks should have just never happened. It only caused confusion. Ludo's redemption arc was horribly underdone. 2 episodes ain't enough. They never elaborated on Toffee's ties with Eclipsa. How did Toffee even corrupt magic in the first place? Did he use the Whispering Spell? Like, that could have just been answered in 1 second. What was the deal with Marco being hinted to be evil so many times? There were so many opportunities to explain all these, but they missed them and instead favored filler and random shipping drama. And with them continuing it for longer than it needed, it opened up for lazy writing, which caused all of the problems I just stated before. So how could have it been done better? I had mentioned before how this series had the potential of going out as a Gravity Falls. The thing about Gravity Falls, Alex Hirsch knew exactly when to end it. He understood that a story that has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and he took it upon himself to end the show. That's right, Gravity Falls was ended by his own will, not cancelled, not rushed, no bullshit. He ended it. That being said, Darren Nefsey should have known when the perfect time to end her show would have been, and that time is right about here. Battle for Muni. This event was the conclusion of the overarching story that was being set up for the first 2 seasons. Also, if you'd notice, it's the only special event of the entire series. Even the series finale wasn't considered a special event, and any large writing issues happened after this event. Ending it here would have left it off at a high note. But admittedly, Battle for Muni isn't perfect. Not at all, actually. But I believe with a few tweaks, this could have been a fucking awesome series finale. Toffee's death in the original Battle for Muni was rushed, and never really explained. How on earth did Star revive all of magic from a tiny little nugget of uncorrupted magic? And his death doesn't even make sense. The Raptor killing spell was specifically designed to kill Septarians that could regenerate, and it took time and effort to develop the spell. Enough time was taken that Solaria had originally started to develop the spell, but then got killed by Toffee in the process, so Eclipsa had to finish it. And Star just comes in and does this mindless anime blast that doesn't even one-shot him. The final blow is the pillar falling on him. Like, what is realistically stopping him from regenerating from any of that goop, or this eye that's perfectly intact? If a random magic blast could kill Septarians, then the rebellion wouldn't have been a problem in the first place. They'd be just like any other monster attack. I feel like cleaning up this ending a bit so it isn't as rushed and anticlimactic would make this a pretty good finale. For the main antagonist of 2 whole seasons, we sure don't know a lot about Toffee. His plan was to destroy all magic and get his finger back, and he immediately left everyone alone once he achieved that. And again, we don't know any of the in-between from the Battle for Muni flashback to when he first appears. What was he doing this whole time? How did he plan all of this out? Time spent on episodes like Marco and the King and Puddle Defender could have been better used adding more closure to these types of endgame plot points, especially since the events of these 2 episodes can easily be told in short. Marco arrives in Muni, Ludo finally attacks the kingdom. Done. Moon begins to be a little less racist. Star heads to Butterfly Castle. Done. That's 44 minutes that was just kinda wasted. So yeah, utilizing that time to cover endgame plot points is a must. Unfortunately, having this be the finale would get rid of the few things that made the last 2 seasons enjoyable. The Eclipsa arc was by far the most interesting, but it doesn't live up to the hype and mystery that the whole overarching Toffee story had. So unfortunately, we're gonna have to take a lot of the Eclipsa stuff out if we want this to be the ending. All the hyping of her being evil, which didn't actually do anything in the end, the encounter and Battle for Muni, the contract, etc. The Into the Wand stuff can stay. That was freaking awesome episode. But all the foreshadowing of her chapter would probably need to be changed a bit. Eclipsa was the main continuing factor from Battle for Muni into Season 3. Taking her out leaves no other reason to continue the story. It sucks, yeah, but this is for the sake of having a better ending, because obviously the one that we got is pretty shit. And remember that some of these foreshadowing moments can stay. A series finale should wrap up the main story while still leaving a bit to the imagination. Adventure Time and Gravity Falls do this very well. This also means that Tom would never have his redemption arc, which also Megalodon sucks. But to be fair, I don't think Darren really cared for his character to begin with, seeing that she based him off of all of her ex-boyfriends. Yikes. If Battle for Muni were the ending of the series, Into the Wand would lose a lot of its far foreshadowing factors. We do end up learning about Moon in Battle for Muni, so the only ones that wouldn't be covered from the episode would be Eclipsa, Solaria, and Selena. This may make the episode lose just a bit of meaning, but overall the episode is still fantastic. Seriously, I can't get over this moment.
I didn't fix my wand.
It doesn't matter. You're going to die. You are going to die.
And again, like little loose ends like this that aren't too big can leave stuff to think about after the finale. A montage at the end of Battle for Muni can cover a lot of ground. We can see things like people rebuilding the kingdom. It could handle the racism plot instantly by simply showing Star or Moon signing some sort of law into effect where monsters and humans are equal. Really, it didn't need to be a 2-season arc. It could have Marco and whoever still together. It show various moments of everyone still hanging out again. Again, Battle for Muni would have been a good ending, especially with these little tweaks here. The story really didn't need to continue that much. But wait, I'm forgetting something again.
Blue, what about the ships? The ships are the most important part.
Ah, yeah. You have to give the people what they want, right? So it's no surprise from this video that shipping is one of the show's main flaws. It overpowered nearly any logic or quality of the story, and evidently it's what people care about the most for some reason. Even though if all you wanted was teen romance drama, you could watch literally any other show. So with this vision of a Battle for Muni ending in mind, what do we do with the ships? Keep in mind this is assuming the Blood Moon incident never actually happened, because I feel like this writing decision only caused trouble for the show. Again, the writers just kind of dug themselves into a rabbit hole there, and they would need to dig themselves out before they established Starco, because otherwise it'd be established through manipulation, and that would be whack for everyone. So there are two paths that could realistically be taken here, Jarco and Starco. I'm going to go through what the finale would look like through each ship. Again, like it or not, this ship makes the most sense in context, and it wouldn't really require any changes throughout Season 2, as they were already doing perfectly fine as a relationship for a full half of a season. So nothing really needs changing on the Jarco side, but we do need a resolution for Star's feelings for Marco. Probably the best way to do this is during Just Friends. Instead of Star being secretly dying inside, we could have a moment where she realizes Marco is genuinely happy like this. She naturally gets over her feelings for him, thus resolving the jealousy situation and diffusing Starco. Marco can then be with Jackie after Battle for Muni and still hang out with Star. Now let's look at the Starco ending. This one is also surprisingly easy to fix, but it would sacrifice the Jarco relationship in its entirety. I wouldn't have Marco break up with Jackie or something, because again, that doesn't really make sense in the context of the past 2 seasons. Instead, I would have them not get together in the first place. In Season 2, Episode 9A, Sleepover, Jackie's over at Star's house. This is the first time Marco has been this close to Jackie. The most natural way to diffuse this ship at this point is having Marco realize that maybe Jackie isn't as good as he thinks. This would be done by Jackie doing or saying something that would kind of lower Marco's interest for her. Not something shallow like, oh, she liked this random thing? Oh, that's weird, I don't like you anymore. Something that actually says something about her core personality. Something that Marco as a character wouldn't feel right with. After Marco gets over Jackie, Star will eventually notice that Marco is feeling down about this, and they can talk about it. Star being there for Marco's time in need establishes a canon interest for their relationship. The rest of the season can be spent by subtly making them closer and closer together, the same way that Jarco was done, eventually leading to Star leaving during Star Crush because of Toffee returning, and Marco follows her into Muni during Battle for Muni, and then they could get together in a way that doesn't completely interrupt the story. Or better yet, they could get together during the Just Friends episode, because since Jarco doesn't exist now, that episode slot is just kinda empty now. This way, it would have no chance of interrupting the story during the finale. So, there's how I would have done it differently. I'm no show writer, but I could guarantee that having a better ending would have made the show a lot more memorable. Shafrillis Productions summed this up actually pretty well.
And then Bluer asks, any opinions on Star vs. the Forces of Evil's final season? Are you aware of the writing issues it had? You know what? I really liked it at first, and then it just collapsed into like just such a mediocre finale that did not answer any questions. And I think endings really make something like stick out a lot more in my mind. But that's how I feel about Star now with the last season. It felt like such a non-climax that I just the whole thing just kind of fell apart for me. So
a show's finale is what leaves the lasting impact. Part of the reason why we all loved Adventure Time and Gravity Falls so much. They both had very good endings. But that's all for this giant video. I'm sorry this took so long to make. This was over like 2 months in the making, probably 3. I used to absolutely love this show, but it's a shame that everything happened the way that it did. Good news is, if you're ever looking for a rewrite of the series, TBlofeld's got you covered. He's doing this whole rewrite after Battle for Muni, and I haven't caught up all the way yet, but so far it's really, really good. I just want to thank everyone who participated in the project and participated in the Star discussion chat or any discussion on the comments or anything. This video would simply not exist without you. And I also just want to thank my community in general for accepting how I feel about this show. From what I've seen in some other communities, if you badmouth this show, you're gonna get killed. So yeah, thank you guys for not killing me up until this point at least. And now, I can rest easy. Finally putting this show behind me for good.
No, God! No, God, please, no! No! No!